Somebody help me.
And now for this evening's host, please give a good warm welcome to Julie Inspector.
Hello, New York! How are you doing out there? I am Julie Inspector, senior reporter at Canary Media. We have some Canary Media fans out there. Make some noise. Okay, very nice, very nice. Everybody else, if you want to come in and start taking your seats, we have so much to do tonight. We have an incredible program for you. You know, we've got Audrey Zibelman, who is a leading clean energy as she was reworking the whole state of New York to be cleaner energy and went to Australia and did it there too. We've got an actual climate comedian named Raleigh Williams. He's really funny. I don't know if you've ever seen a climate stand-up before, but it's happening tonight, okay? And then we're going to hear about the future clean energy policy. And we're going to have a live taping of the Volts podcast with the great Dave Roberts. And Michael Liebrick, who's really one of the smartest energy analysts out there. And along the way, you know, we want to inform you, but we really want this to be a fun time, okay? We want you to be making friends, striking up conversations, maybe meet your future collaborator, your co-founder, who knows? And we know that there's so many things happening in Climate Week, okay? Like New York Climate Week, it's crazy out there. But you all chose to be here with us tonight. And you chose the one event in all of Climate Week with a live band on stage all night long. Let's hear it for Ben Wolcon and the Department of Energy.
All you.
That was great. Yeah, let's give them one more round of applause. That's there's nothing like starting out the night with some bluesy riffs out there. So yeah, wanted to say this is a very exciting collaboration. This is really one of the most fun events we do all year, and it's a co-production with the Pew Charitable Trusts and MacArthur Foundation, and we all got to work together to put this all together. So if you could give them a round of applause. It's great to have creative partners who are as dedicated to an incredible live experience as we are. And we also have support from corporate partners, AT&T, Raymond James, and Agog, who also help make this possible. Because, you know, I don't know if you know this about Canary Media, we are a nonprofit news company. And by that I mean we intentionally are not trying to make a profit. We're not accidentally unprofitable, which unfortunately is a rather common occurrence in the media industry these days. So we are able to put out daily news on the clean energy transition for free for anybody, no paywall, and that's because readers like you support us, and you tell your friends, and you share the stories when you find a great story, and it's also, you know, philanthropic supporters and donors, you know, at the institutional level, like Pew and like MacArthur. So, you know, we love putting out the news. We love telling these stories, and it's possible because of this community. And it's so special to come and sort of celebrate that together in a room with all of you. So, you know, before we kind of kick off with the first interview, I wanted to set the scene a little bit on the energy situation we're in. But I realized nothing had really happened this year. Nothing interesting to. Oh no, that was supposed to be edited out. Sorry. No, it's been kind of a crazy year for energy. I don't know if, I mean, going back to January, I think it really started when President Trump came back in office, declared an energy emergency right off the bat. And it was kind of an interesting time to declare an energy emergency because the U.S. had recently started pumping more oil and gas than actually any country in the history of the world. And we were also on track to build more power plant capacity this year in 2025 than the U.S. ever had in the history of the U.S. So kind of an interesting time for an energy emergency. It's kind of like if I'm coming into New York City and I'm declaring a bagel emergency. I can't have any bagels, and I'm like shoveling bagels into my backpack because there's so many. But you know, we're not in an energy emergency. We could be, in theory, you could imagine a situation where if, you know, someone started blocking construction of new power plants while stimulating a historic amount of electricity demand, that could cause maybe an energy emergency. But actually, in recent news, the Trump administration has begun blocking new power plant construction and stimulating huge demand for electricity. So that's kind of an interesting combo. We've been seeing some offshore wind plants that are like fully permitted and under construction get sent a stop work order, which means they have to stop work. And they didn't want to stop work. It was like 80% done. The Revolution Wind going to provide power to the Northeast. And I've been waiting my whole career for someone to give me a stop work order, and it still hasn't happened. So I just wish that could have been targeted a little differently for my vacations. But, you know, there was also this big federal budget law that passed this summer that took away tax credits for wind and solar that were supposed to keep going into the 2030s. And now it's basically you got to start building before next July to get those wind and solar credits. So, you know, that will drive up the cost of electricity. And on the demand side, the White House has really prioritized expanding AI infrastructure. You know, there's this sort of global arms race to build AI because it's really good at like plagiarizing the news and making like fake girlfriends and boyfriends that you can text with that always respond to you when you want them to. Really important kind of like world historic stuff at stake here with the AI. And, you know, the top players, they're trying to spend hundreds of billions of dollars just this year to build these data centers that are just huge guzzling. They just consume electricity all day long. And, you know, so we've got this combination of federal interventions that are decreasing the supply of electricity. At the same time, demand is rising faster than it ever has in any of our lifetimes. And I'm really hoping that means prices go down. I think that would be just so great. But I didn't take Econ 101, so I don't know what's going to happen there. So yeah, the clean energy industry, it's taken some hits this year. It was, you know, we met here last year during Climate Week, and it was kind of the best policy scenario the clean energy industry had ever had, and that's not the case anymore, which, you know, could lead to a sort of downtrodden, kind of dejected energy. But that's really not what I've been seeing out reporting. And I was actually just in Las Vegas for a week for the big solar conference, RE+, and it really was not a very gloomy mood at all. Like, there's sort of the sense that people had taken some punches, and they're you know, a little more battle hardened, but they're getting out there, they're still building stuff, and they are actually very optimistic about the future of clean energy precisely because the demand signals from AI are just so overwhelming. And you know, the broader electric cars and manufacturing coming back, those all need electricity. And if you're looking out at the landscape of what else can we build to make more electricity, there is other things. You could build a gas plant, but you need to wait 5 years or more to get a turbine. There's these backlogs because there's only a few companies building the gas turbines. So, you know, those things work, but you gotta get in line. You can't just do that tomorrow. And then there's nuclear, which you know, a lot of AI companies have been signing these deals to like bring back 3 Mile Island. That's a great one. That's a winner with the public for sure. And then these small modular reactors, which I've been writing about, you know, for like 10 years. They haven't happened yet, but they're supposed to be like the big nuclear, but they're smaller, and that's cool. But I kept talking about them, and then you know, I'm trying to not talk about them as much. My therapist said I'm too old for imaginary friends. And they were like, "Have you seen an SMR generate power?" I haven't. Have any of your friends seen an SMR generate any power? No? Okay. You know, so compared to those non-existent or possible theoretical options, the thing that solar and battery have going for them, they can be built now. You know, it doesn't take that long to construct a field of these mass-produced solar panels and load up a bunch of containers of mass-produced lithium-ion batteries. And, you know, there's plenty of challenges on permitting and kind of winning the local acceptance and all of that. It's not a, you know, walk in the park, but if you need power in the next 5 years, which we're seeing, you know, hundreds of billions of dollars on the line that need that power, and these clean energy resources are the ones that can actually deliver in the next 5 years, that's a sort of fundamental, this is not the policy road, this is just like basic market fundamentals pointing for probably we're gonna still see some historic growth of wind and solar. And that's basically where we're at today in a nutshell from my reporting. I'm really glad to be here. I put on a suit just for you guys. I don't always do that. Yeah. And you know, I think we want to kick it off. We want to bring out Laura Lightbody from Pew, and yeah, give it up for Laura. She directs the Energy Modernization Project at the Pew Charitable Trusts, and she's going to say a few words, and then we're going to kick off the show tonight. So thank you once more for being here. Let's give it up for the whole crew tonight. Thank you.
Okay, I don't have any jokes. This is way more fun than some of the events that we plan in Washington, D.C., so I'm happy to be in good company with Canary Media here, who always puts on a good show. This is our second year partnering with Canary Media, and we're happy to co-host this with the MacArthur Foundation at an event that I think really brings together both innovation and thought leadership. Working to advance clean energy solutions that meet some of today's biggest challenges. Julian set the stage quite well on where we are, but some of those really macro challenges that we're working towards are increasing electricity demand, life-altering natural disasters, and major increases to the costs of living. The Pew Charitable Trusts has been working for over 75 years at the intersection of data and policy to tackle global challenges. And today's topic is central to my work. As Julian said, I'm the director of what is called our Energy Modernization Initiative. And I'm working with a team of experts and advocates, some of which are in this room, so make sure you say hi to them later today, on policy and regulatory interventions that help states and federal lawmakers scale clean energy solutions, modernize the transmission grid, and accelerate the deployment of distributed energy resources. Those are really the three stools of our work. But simply put, we want solutions that help meet energy demand and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. I think that's something we can all agree on. Last year at this event, we launched a national initiative to scale distributed energy resources. So think battery storage, solar, and in aggregation, virtual power plants. Some of the cheapest and ready-to-deploy resources that we have today, so much so that experts who are here, by the way, Wood Mackenzie in the house, tell us that we can double the amount of distributed energy resources with the right enabling environments. And so we've assembled a bipartisan group of experts to really put together an audacious set of recommendations that, if implemented, would do just that. We're working with energy experts, Pat Wood, who was chair of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission under President George Bush, and one of our speakers tonight, Audrey Zibelman, who is a native New Yorker, I think. She is now a native New Yorker in the sense that she was chairwoman of the Public Utility Commission, and she also ran the Australia energy market. So we'll hear more from her shortly, and we're excited to have those two as our leaders, and they are kind of surrounded and complemented by other council members who bring expertise from utilities to community and equity, to really put this kind of national vision out that will remove barriers to achieve universal access to local energy generation in a way that does three things. It is reliable, cost-effective, and clean. So Pew will be unveiling that roadmap in the spring of 2026, so consider this your exclusive heads up. It should not be a surprise to anyone in this room that we need a diversity of clean resources to meet ambitious net zero outcomes. ICF International and many other experts tell us that by 2045, we will need to double the amount of gigawatts, upwards of 80 gigawatts of energy, double than what we have today. Meeting that demand is today's challenge and is central to this night's conversation that we're going to unpack. So before I close, I have to say my children, my 4-year-old and 7-year-old, are at home watching us virtually. So I have to say hi. So can everyone, after I say 1, 2, 3, say hi, Sophia and Billy? 1, 2, 3. Hi, Sophia and Billy. All right, you just made my day, and hopefully they're watching. I'm looking forward to connecting with you all during some of the breaks. We have a really good lineup tonight. Thank you so much to our MC, Julian. There's a Pew notebook on your chair. You can scan the QR code to receive our newsletter, and make sure you say hi to lots of our staff who are here tonight as well. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just chat a little bit while we get the chair set up for the next thing. So, yeah, this is going to be fun. I've been interviewing Audrey for a while now because she was pivotal in New York, and New York was doing this New York Rev thing, reforming the energy vision, which I think might still be technically happening. I don't, it's an ongoing reforms always keep going. But she went down to Australia, and the work that's been happening there to unlock clean energy is quite astonishing. And her successor at running the grid operator, there's like actively talking about a 100% renewable future being a real thing that they're going to do. Like, it's not just a thing that activists are hoping for, or like a theoretical thing. It's the people who do the nuts and bolts of delivering the grid power think that's actually realistic and in the near future. And a key part of that is actually the distributed energy that they're going to talk about, because there is just so much rooftop solar, and it gives this kind of base load of, well, not technically base load, but a whole lot of power coming from the homes and the houses and the businesses that makes it easier for the big grid to come that way. And yeah, interviewing her is going to be the journalist Elisa Wood from Energy Changemakers. She's also formerly started the Microgrid Knowledge publication, and so deep expertise on the distributed energy space. So I think we're ready for you now. We got chairs, and let's give it up for the distributed energy panel.
Yes? Working? Working. Hey, okay, great. So, hey, everybody, thanks for being here tonight. And boy, I'm so excited to be interviewing Audrey. One thing that, Julian, thanks for the introduction. One thing he missed that he didn't say about me, I have a confession. I already confessed it to Audrey. I am such an energy nerd that back when Audrey was the chairman of the New York Public Service Commission, really amazing things were going on. Julian mentioned it, reforming the energy vision. I would actually look for the agenda. They had Thursday meetings, I remember that. Sometimes they were in New York, sometimes Albany. And they were just changing things so fast. It was phenomenal. And then Australia stole her because they needed their grid fixed. So we're really happy you're back. And just great to be here with you today. I'm going to just really briefly define distributed energy for those who may not know what it is. I know a lot of you do, but we don't want to leave anybody behind here. So basically, we have a centralized grid now where we have power generation, we have transmission lines, we have distribution lines, we have the customer. The power flows from the generator through the lines to the customer. Distributed energy kind of flips that in the sense that it is on the customer side. So now we have EVs, we have batteries, we have microgrids, we have solar, which gives the customer the ability to become a prosumer, meaning they can create energy on their own, either to use it themselves or to serve the grid. This is the real expert here, so am I leaving anything important out, Audrey?
No.
Okay, we got it? We got it. Okay, very good. Okay, so let's dive into the questions. So, policy, as we all know, policy drives the power sector. A good policy is really important to it. And you had one of the first major policy reforms that affected distributed energy, reforming the energy vision. That was like more than a decade ago that you were doing that. It was way before, like, most other states were even thinking about this. Sorry, California. New York was ahead of you. And, but what I know about Audrey is that she was thinking about this way before that. We were talking beforehand, and God, back when you were at PJM as the COO, you were then even talking about distributed energy. What were you seeing way back then that made you start to think that we should be focusing on distributed energy?
First of all, it's great to be here. I think that I've been involved, and this is really dates me, but I've been involved in the power industry since 1988, so a really, really, really long time, and ran a power grid for Xcel Energy, and then went to PJM. But when I went to PJM, one of the things that was happening on the power system is that when we made the power system competitive in the 1990s, there was a lot of excess generation because utilities overbuilt the system and demand was flattening out. So we were in a period of time when we set up the markets that actually we retired a lot of generation. But then suddenly that started catching up to us. And we discovered that we weren't able to attract investment in generation in these competitive markets the way we needed to, and prices started to increase, congestion started to increase. And at PJM, we had been doing some experimentation on how do we use demand, and something we did, frankly, forever in this industry. We would call up large industrial players and call them and say, look, it's hot. Can you turn down your usage? And we always saw demand as a very valuable resource. But at PJM, we started thinking about, can we use it to do fast response that we needed on the grid for just a few minutes? It's called regulation. And we started to see it, but what we saw was that demand actually responded better than generation. It was faster and it was more dependable. And so as we were starting to see the need for new investment, I said, well, what we really need to do is make sure for every source of revenues that we have for generation, we have it for consumers. So if consumers can shift their load, if they can reduce their load, they should get paid for it. Because really at PJM, we're just running a market. And our job is to keep demand and supply equal. And if we can reduce demand at a cheaper price, then increasing supply, and in a sense, there's people moving to more distributed backup generation, that's what we should be paying for because it's better for consumers. So it's all about the fact that markets and regulation are here for consumers. They're not here for the suppliers. And as a market operator or a regulator, that was my job, was to look out for the consumers.
That also was kind of ahead of the time. Now we hear a lot of people using the phrase, the grid shouldn't be for the grid's sake. And that's basically what you were saying back then. So here we are, more than a decade later, more than a decade since REV. How do you think we're doing? Are we where you thought we would be by now in the US, or are we behind in terms of distributed energy? It certainly is a lively market right now, but has some obstructions for sure as well.
Yeah, I actually don't think we're nearly close to where we should be or where we can be. So, and I'll take a detour. So when I went to Australia, one of the things that was really interesting to me is that in Australia, there's just like in the US, there's a lot of power plants that are really at the end of their useful life, and in that case was a lot of coal plants. And what we were seeing is that the cheapest, not the cheapest because of subsidies, but the cheapest way of retiring coal was adding in renewables, solar, wind, and storage. And so what we started to talk about was we developed a resource plan that went out 20 years to take a look at that. But the other thing that was happening in Australia, which is the pickup of rooftop solar. So when I got to the country in 2017, we had about 100,000 installations. There's 26 million people in Australia. Think about New York. By the time I left, 1 in 3 Australians had rooftop solar. And so we saw this massive S-curve of change where, because Australia did a really good job of reducing the soft cost, making it really easy for people to put solar on their roofs, suddenly solar on the roof stopped being an identity issue. It wasn't like I put solar on my roof because I vote Labor or Green. I put solar in my roof because it's cheaper. And then as a grid operator, we started to think about, well, how do we integrate it? So what we saw was a shift in the mindset of both the market and the grid operators to stop thinking about distributed energy as a problem, but actually thinking about it as an asset. So if you talk to the utilities in Australia today, many of them are saying, those in Sydney and those in Melbourne are saying, they would like to see 70% of the energy that is being used to serve consumers coming from distributed solar. So in some parts of the country, it's 1 out of 2. So we've reached the point where it's becoming such a normal part. But what has to happen is you have to change the mindset of consumers. And so one of the things that, I'm excited about the work we're doing with Pew is to actually say it's not a technology issue. It becomes a regulatory market and a mindset issue. And those are the things we need to be working on to get to scale. And what I think we failed to do in REV, but is the next generation, is how do you make those structural mindset changes and also the structural changes in the markets and regulation so that you can get it to scale. And I think that should be a much more solvable issue than it was in the past. And the biggest thing is to get it to the point where regular New Yorkers, regular Californians, regular Minnesotans, wherever you are, start to think about this as like we think about cell phones. It's no longer the novelty, it's just the way we do energy.
That's great. And you may hear us use different terms here that mean the same thing: distributed energy, decentralized energy. Another term is grid edge, and I think actually some of the folks here coined that term. Canary Media, or the earlier incarnation of Green Tech Media, coined that term grid edge. So just want to make sure you realize it's the same term. So how can we become Australia? What do we need to do policy-wise here?
One, it's much easier in a smaller country with a lot of sun. It's a sunburned country. But I think that the things that we would like to see happen is, one, we need to look at, the whole concept of the fact that we have to get over the view that distributed energy resources and moving towards that type of grid edge is novel or different versus it is actually a way we get to universal access. So one is thinking about policies that actually say everybody should have access to this. This shouldn't be just left to the rich or people of roofs. We need to make sure that we're maximizing what we should do. And the reason we should do this now, which is probably most important in the discussion we had about AI, is what's happening on the power system right now is unprecedented. And I mean that in a, not like, let's make a big thing out of nothing. It's a big deal. Right now, at the point we are in the power system, when I entered, like I said, in the 1980s and through the 90s, because machines and white goods became more efficient, we saw demand sort of flatten out. And it wasn't growing. And then suddenly it started to increase a little. But now, the rapid increase created by data centers and AI and electrification is unprecedented. We've never seen this much growth probably since World War II. And so, we know it's very difficult to build infrastructure in this country. But we have to be thinking about how we're going to meet this new demand. At the same time, which is very different than happened before, we have a lot of aging infrastructure. We have a lot of generators that have to retire. We have a lot of networks that have to be improved and updated. So there's a huge amount of capital to spend. And that's what's creating the pressure on rate increases universally. So the job we have to think about is twofold. One is we have to continue to do what we still don't do very well, is think about energy efficiency and make sure we're not consuming more energy than we need to. Secondly, we need to think about the fact that we have this benefit as a result of investments that were made during the 90s. The cost of rooftop solar, the cost of batteries, the cost of other technologies have come down. And we should find ways to deploy them widely, because if we do that, we can avoid having to build transmission and generation that is at a grid scale, but instead using demand as a much more efficient resource. What that allows for is that when you are building these data centers and this demand, you have the capability, frankly, to reduce the need to build more grid, but also customers can participate by having the flexibility. For example, there's the example that I always like to think about is that there's really interesting technology that says, oh, we have solar and we have batteries together, well, in the afternoon, we actually don't need that much solar energy because we have plenty. Let's charge up the batteries, and then in the evenings when the sun sets, we'll use the batteries to reduce the need to import on the grid because it's still hot in the afternoon and people are putting on their air conditioners. Or if we have an electric vehicle and people plug it in, you automatically reduce it because the grid's getting hot. People are saying, I don't need my car until 6 a.m. If you want to slow down the charge, it's okay with me. And so it's thinking about how do we make demand and the usage of energy and it much more efficient as a way of reducing having to do things for the peak of the demand, and at the same time building up these data centers so that as we're making investment on the grid, it could be cheaper for everyone because the costs of that demand is soaking up the sort of the need that they're willing to pay for the energy. That's probably a lot in this short sentence.
I think you said a lot. I think, but the bottom line is if you want to keep the costs down for consumers, install more distributed energy. That's what will get us
And
there.
use it better.
And use it better.
So the biggest problem we have, and we can probably simplify this even more. So electricity is the only product you need that has to be instantaneously produced and consumed. Every time you turn on a light, some generator has to go up, right? But what if the fact is you had rooftop solar and batteries, and instead of that generator having to increase, you're able to shift that demand to another part of the day where you have plenty of excess generation or use what you're producing. That reduces the demand on the grid. And if we could move from a very highly inefficient grid where there are lots of losses of energy every time you move it across great distances, and you use things locally, the entire system could be more productive. It's almost like you don't want to run the hotel that is only used during Unga week and the rest of the year it's not used. And that's what we have in the grid. We have generators that are only used a few hours a year, and if we can not build those generators, we can make the entire system more efficient.
It's all about timing.
Yes.
So one problem we always hear about, and we have for years, is that utilities will obstruct distributed energy. I used to do a conference, Microgrid Knowledge had a conference, and microgrid folks were there, and they would say, you know, the utilities are stopping us from doing this. And the utilities would say, we are doing that for a reason. We have a reason for getting in the way. What can we do about this problem? What can we do about utility regulation that would make it easier to have more distributed energy?
Sorry, I was sick a couple weeks ago, so I'm still struggling. But, can everyone hear me? All right, I just made that better. Sorry about that. The way that, so in answer to your question, I think several things that we could do well. One is the thing we started in New York, which is a utility regulation is sort of incented around utilities investing in assets. So one of the things we looked at in New York and Rev was changing that and giving utilities the incentive to not build more if they can use distributed energy better. So our goal in Rev was to change that incentive mechanism. The other thing that we're talking about, that we've had discussion about around the advisory group of Pew, but I think is really important, is that we know that utilities are compliant. And so if one of the things that we've done in this country well is where renewable energy is taken off, it's because we've set targets of where do we want to be. So I think there's another opportunity to say, well, let's use science, let's use evidence, and see if we model distributed energy and saw how much we could actually use and how that could be used to reduce rates. Can we use that information then to target where we want to be, as opposed to what we do now, which is we have a set of incentives, which we hope that people will sign up for, but we have no real idea of where we want to go. And I think if we have plans that actually target the penetration and say, let's get to 30%, let's get to 50%. What does that look like? How does that affect prices? And we all have a very transparent and honest view of what the opportunity is. Then you can develop programs to get it there. But it's like that Yogi Berra thing. If you don't have a plan, any road looks good. I know I butchered that, but basically that's the problem. Is we need to know what good and excellent looks like, and then we design rates and markets around getting there.
Very good. So I feel like I've had all the fun here getting to ask Audrey questions. Is there anybody out there who would like to ask a question? Just raise your hand if you're interested. If not, I've got plenty more. I'm happy to keep going. I just don't want to. There you go.
Hey, Audrey, thanks for curious to dig in that a little deeper. Like, what jurisdictions do you like, especially when it comes to distributed energy resources?
Look, I think some really exciting things are going on, frankly. Virginia has passed legislation around mandating VPPs. So has Colorado, so has Minnesota. So I think states are beginning looking at I'll brag. The states have begun to look at this idea of, instead of just leaving it to chance, maybe we should say, no, this is where we want to go. We want to maximize what we can do with distributed energy, and we're going to require utilities to look at this as a viable alternative. And utilities, I would say, as a former regulator and as a former utility executive, the one thing utilities are exceptionally good at, because they're regulated, is compliance. And if you tell them where to go, they'll go, because they understand that that's their job. And I think where states are moving this direction and making it very clear that that's an objective, utilities will become much more thoughtful about how do they go there. So I think those are great examples where people are where states are moving forward. And then, I'm also quite excited what we're doing in Australia, because in Australia, the other aspect is that the distribution utilities are working with the network operators like New York ISO or PJM, and when they're developing their plans, they're actually looking at how to maximize the use of distributed energy resources in order to reduce the cost of energy for everyone and make the grid more resilient and efficient. And I think having those kind of objective outcomes of where you want to go moves things in a much faster way.
So you mentioned virtual power plants, VPPs. What other game-changing technologies are you really watching and excited about these days?
Well, there's a lot of things I'm very excited about, and I'm also on the board of Landis & Gear, which is looking at metering and how to use two-way communications to integrate load. But there's lots of companies who, for example, are looking at how do we automate at the edge of the system, and in terms of making it easy. So when I think about, after I left AEMO, I went and I worked for Google and worked on a program called Tapestry, which is about applying grid digitalization. But one of the things I learned through the work at Google is, one thing Google did really well when it when it bought YouTube was move to a distributed compute environment to allow for balancing. That's why we get to watch cat videos, because they became much better at balancing the internet. And so there are companies who are applying that same thought process of using, like Camus is a company I'm aware of, GridSight is another, for optimizing the existing grid to make it much more efficient by saying, where we have excess capability, let's use it, and let's not plan to build more grid if we don't need it. And then if you combine that with flexibility, you drive efficiency through the system.
You just gave me a great headline for a story, what cat videos can teach us about the grid. Thank you. So let's talk about climate. That's what we're here to talk about tonight, climate. What role does distributed energy play in climate? One thing I have heard over and over again from the distributed energy naysayers is that we need big energy. We need big power plants, not these little distributed energy, solar and storage and microgrids, although microgrids are getting pretty big these days. But we have to have utility scale power in order to achieve climate goals. Do you believe that is the case, and what role do what role does distributed energy play?
Yeah, I don't believe it's the case. Now, in order for this to be effective, though, you have to think about this in the aggregate, right? And so if someone has solar and batteries at their house, there's not very much they're going to do to offload the system if a large generator goes out. The scale issues do make a difference. But if you aggregate that, in other words, then that's what a virtual power plant is basically aggregating a lot of small loads so it looks more like a generator to a utility, then you can make a very significant difference. So the thing that we're doing in Australia is that level of aggregation so that everyone's rooftop solar and batteries and EVs and everything else that happens at this distribution edge are being able to be operated sort of through software, so that from the grid's perspective, it has the same size impact as a large generator. And I think that's the kind of work that when people talk about virtual power plants, really is the value. And then there are other companies who are developing markets to monetize that or tariffs. So I think that's a game changer for managing the grid.
Yeah, because to the grid doesn't care if it's a DER or utility scale, correct? To the grid, it's just how much is there. And it could be aggregated DERs, or it could be a big utility scale plant.
Right. Now, and you know, certain things happen on the power system. You know, things will happen, like if in fact, you know, a large generator goes out for a day, you know, you usually have to need another generator to get it back up. But if you're only if you have other resources that are available at the grid edge, you don't need that substitute generator, so it reduces the cost. Cloud cover comes over, and if you have a lot of solar, it'll knock you out. If you have batteries that you can use to supplement it, you can balance out the grid. And so the difference is that for the first time, we're moving from a power system that was very centrally dispatched with large generators to, this is why the internet is a good analogy, to a highly distributed system with a lot of smaller things happening, and you're putting a lot more intelligence through the system so that it operates very much like the internet. I mean, if you think about it, right, we all know that we don't have infinite internet capability, and that when in fact the internet is being heavily used, things slow down, but they slow down at a level that's hopefully imperceptible to you. I think what we're looking at on the power grid is saying what we want to do is constantly be using these very fast-moving devices to smooth things out at the grid, at the edge, because the grid is, you know, is real-time and dynamic. And to do that, you need a lot more of an intelligent system, but you also need the ability to have markets and regulation that allow you to take advantage of these resources in such a way as to make the entire grid more efficient.
Okay, so I live in rural Virginia, so I do see the internet slow down.
Yeah.
So I have one more question I really want to ask you. It's 2040 now. What will the grid look like, or what do we want the grid to look like by 2040?
Well, in my view, what will happen is you'll have a grid where everybody has access or is using distributed energy resources, whether it's rooftop solar or batteries or other types of devices, and hopefully electrification. So that, and then through that, having basically either through their control panel or their meters, a way of balancing that. So everyone has a sort of a basically microsystem that is helping make the whole grid more efficient and cleaner. And then balanced against that is generation, which I would like to think is wind and solar and batteries, and if that magic SMR gets invented, the SMRs, geothermals, lots of different resources, but much cleaner resources. The advantage to that from a societal basis, not just in terms of certainly the very fact that it's cleaner and decarbonized, is that you have an infinite fuel source. I mean, one of the things we know about fossil fuels is that as if anything else that gets created, the price will go up as supply reduces, and we will run out. The difference between solar and wind, it's an infinite resource. And so as we can harness these, what we used to call free electrons, we should expect and hope that the price of energy remains affordable, because we're going to need that, particularly as we electrify more and more. of our system.
Listening to you, I'm thinking, we're talking about the flow of electrons, but we're talking about a lot more than that. We're talking about a massive, really economic change in the way power is handled.
So I'll leave you with one thought. So one of the boards that I'm a part of is the Emirates Water and Electric Company, which you would think in the Emirates, since they're a big oil and gas producer, that they would think about natural gas as their best resource. They've decided to decarbonize their grid because for them, solar is the cheapest resource. So, this isn't just a matter of let's do this because it's good for the environment, although I think they care about that. They're doing it because it's good for their economy. And I think that what we undersell in the US is the fact that moving toward much cleaner and renewable resources is actually the economically sane thing to do. And by not taking advantage of the changes in technology and the capabilities to get there, we're making the entire energy system more expensive than it should be.
So you thought you were going to hear about energy tonight, and you heard about economic sanity. So thank you so much, Audrey. That was so wonderful. Thank you, Pew, and thank you, Canary Media.
All right, let's give it one more round of applause for Audrey and Lisa. I like that framework of how we do have it by splitting everything up into little bits, and maybe the grid can work just the same way as the internet mirror that we all like. So now we're going to do a quick video. We have a couple of videos we prepared from clean energy breakthroughs around the country. This was about Gallaudet University in my hometown of DC. Building a microgrid, and then we're going to have a little more music and a little more information, and then networking. Hey. So, bear with us. Yeah.
Good evening to everyone there at Climate Night Live in New York. I'm Richard Doherty. I am Gallaudet University's Executive Director for Architecture and Facilities Management. Gallaudet is the only liberal arts university of its kind in the world for deaf and hard of hearing students. And not surprisingly, we've been challenged by a deferred maintenance backlog, along with ever increasing energy costs. The good news is that our recently launched microgrid has provided an incredibly effective solution for meeting these challenges. Since initiating this project, we've installed more than 3,200 solar panels. We've implemented a 1.2 megawatt, 2-hour battery energy storage system, providing critical short-term backup power in the event of a grid outage. And we built a 4.5 megawatt combined heat and power plant, which generates most of the university's electricity. And already we're on track to save about $1.5 million in utility costs. Only allowed us to become self-sufficient. But through the DC Community Solar Program, approximately 400 homes in the district are able to reduce their energy bills by subscribing to Gallaudet's solar offering. In conclusion, we'd like to thank Canary Media for this opportunity to share our story, and I wish you all a wonderful evening.
It will be, don't worry. Is this on?
Is this on? Hey, wow. What a show. What a great panel that was. Our band has actually changed our name to Edging the Grid after that. And we'd like to play a song with the biggest piece of climate misinformation that's ever been put into music.
That's right. Yep.
And that lie is that thunder only happens when it's raining.
But you lost and what you had, oh, and what you lost. Well,
Thunder only happens when it's raining. Players only love you when they're playing.
say women, they will come and they will go.
When the rain washes you clean, you'll know.
You'll know. Now here I go again. I see the crystal visions. I keep my visions to myself. It's only me who wants to wrap around your dreams, and will have you any dreams you like to sell. Dreams of loneliness like a heartbeat drives you mad in the stillness of remembering what you had and what you lost and what you had, oh, and what you lost.
Oh, thunder only happens when it's raining. Players only love you when they're playing.
Say women, they will come and they will go.
When the rain washes you clean, you'll know.
Well,
Thunder only happens when it's raining. Players only love you when they're playing.
say women, they will come and they will go.
When the rain washes you clean, you'll know.
You'll know.
You will know.
Oh, you'll know.
That was lovely. That's the kind of harmonies we need from all the resources on our grid to just work together in harmonies as beautiful as those voices. Okay, we have one more exciting panel before you get a nice bit of a networking break. We are going to welcome Eric Wessoff, the Executive Director of Canary Media, and he is going to be interviewing Shannon Thomas Carroll, AVP of Global Environmental Sustainability at AT&T. You know them from powering your phones and your messages, and now we're going to hear about their sustainability strategy. Let's give a round of applause for this one. Woo!
Hello, 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 hello. I'm speaking close to the microphone. Thank you for the remaining 12 people who are in the audience. We appreciate it. Thank you. What a great band. The Department of Energy. Thank you, Department of Energy. All right. We have Shannon Thomas Carroll from AT&T. If you were born in the 1800s, like myself, AT&T would be about telephones and telegraphs. If you were born in the 20th century, AT&T, more my century, was about the regional Bell operating companies and the modified final judgment. That's history that you don't know. But it's also about laser diodes and the transition to fiber optics from copper. So I'd like you to tell me a little bit about there's the perception of what AT&T is in the 19th and 20th centuries. What is AT&T today?
At the end of the day, AT&T is absolutely a connectivity company, as all you know. So whether that's through mobility or fiber, that's our mission, to connect people, we say to greater possibilities, but essentially what that means is whatever you're doing in your day in life, we want to be the one who connects you.
Okay. Thank you for the other 12 people who are joining us. Thank you. We're in a time of turmoil, and things are changing. And the terms that we've used to describe our energy transition, whether it be carbon neutral or net zero, are probably are not as in vogue as they used to be. Is the sound better all of a sudden? Yes? Good. So tell us a little bit, Shannon, about, although there are some winds of change in the language that we're using about net zero and carbon neutrality, what does it really mean? What do the changing winds, if anything, mean to AT&T?
Well, no, I'm very happy to say that, look, there's always headwinds, tailwinds, depending on the time of the year. But I'll say this, when we set all of our goals, I have really the privilege of working for a company that actually does force us in the best way possible to make sure that everything we do drives business value. And when we set our carbon neutral goal for 2035, we wouldn't have been able to do that unless we proved out the business value. As most of these folks know, as you drive out, different energy use in the company, whether that's electricity or fuel for a vehicle, there's cost savings there. There's also the additional benefit of reducing your emissions, which is really about the carbon neutral goal. But everything we do is very closely tied to the business. So whether that's, we're actually the 5th largest procurer of renewable energy in the United States. And we make a lot of money doing that. And that's a good thing, right? Because that allows me to continue to make the business case to do, other deals like that while driving down our emissions.
Okay. So this is really the big question. And Julian brought it up a little bit, but we're all energy nerds, and we all hear about the tens and hundreds of gigawatts of power that are going to be necessary to drive the AI artificial girlfriend and plagiarism engine that we all need. Thank you. You two are hired. I appreciate that. So we're hearing about this amazing AI demand for energy, but the network is going to be handling this energy traffic. Has the network, the cellular network, has it seen this hockey stick spike in the bits that are traveling across our network pursuant to the rumors that are being spread?
So from a purely network perspective, whether that's going through mobile or fiber, we have not seen the hockey stick of the AI data that a lot of folks talk about. Now, what I will say is the data that goes across our network increases every single year. And so that does continue to go up. I think largely, and I'm an optimist on AI, I think largely that energy consumption and that data consumption is largely going to be limited, right, to a handful of companies on the planet, those hyperscalers that are doing this work, very geographically located where those giant data centers are going to be. And I think AI at the end of the day the heart of AI is really about efficiency. And so I'll just give you an example why I'm optimistic. If we can use artificial intelligence, automation to better route the data on our network using less energy, that's a great thing. So I do believe that all technologies become more efficient over time. That's been proven out over and over. AI's been around a long time. I think, though, from a energy perspective, we're in the beginning stages of that. So I have to believe that AI, like everything else, will become more efficient over time.
All right. I want to repeat that the AI hockey stick has not yet been felt in the cellular data transfer world. That's one interesting piece of data. The other thing you discussed was that despite the ways of change, the corporate intent is still for lower power usage and less cost power usage, regardless
Absolutely.
of what the zeitgeist is.
Yes.
So where does AT&T's energy come from, the usage come from? Is it is it EV fleets that are rolling, or is it just powering that AI? Is that where it comes, that's the central place for it?
Well, I wouldn't say powering AI, but for us, the largest
Powering the
use of
network.
electricity is definitely powering the network. We do have a large fleet, so there's a lot of fuel that goes into that. So like everybody, we're looking at the EV transition. I'll just say the EV transition is largely going to be held up by the ability to put the charging infrastructure in place. So that's really important for those of us who do this for a living. But yeah, I mean, for us, it's all about how do we power the world's largest network, and we power that in a lot of different ways, conventional ways. But again, we use a tremendous amount of renewable energy as well. All portfolios are usually strengthened by being diversified, and we'll continue to do that as well.
Okay. I think that really covers what we wanted to talk about, right?
Sure.
What we discussed. But again, for the 14 people that are still in the audience, I do want to emphasize some real interesting points that came out, is that this AI hockey stick has not yet hit the networks, and corporations, AT&T is the 32 largest corporation in the United States, are going to continue their decarbonization, net zero goals with maybe a different name upon it, simply because it's good business.
It is good business, and again, I'll just reiterate that point. So whether you call it carbon neutral, net zero, the idea that the business always is going to understand is if you drive out that particular resource, you are driving cost savings. And we should all lean into that and then also take the benefits of the reduced emissions.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Thanks, Isabel.
All right, it's time to go network, make some friends, eat some snacks, get some drinks, and we'll be back here. We'll tell you when it's time to come back. But thanks for being here. Have a good time out there.
Let's just do a longer fire. Yeah. Yeah, that's what Long one. Oh, yeah.
Hello. Thank you. flash it for you. More than just ashes when your dreams come true. Oh, fire, fire on the mountain. 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 Long distance runner, what you holding out for? Caught in slow motion in a dash for the door. The flame from your stage has now spread to the floor. You gave all you had, now you wanna give more. More that you give, the more it will take. To the thin line beyond which you really can't shake. Oh, fire, fire on the mountain. Fire, fire on the mountain. Fire, fire on the mountain. Fire, fire on the mountain.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, my friend, feel it's their appointed duty. They keep trying to tell me all you want to do is use me. Yeah, but my answer, at all that you use me still. 'Cause and I wanna spread the news that if it feels this good getting used, oh, you just keep on using me until you use me up. Yeah, well, my brother, he sat me right down and he talked to me. He told me that I'm not let you just walk on me. And I'm sure he meant well, yeah, but when our talk was through, I said, brother, if you only knew, you'd wish that you were in my shoes. Oh, you just keep on using me until you use me up. Until you use me up. Yeah, well, sometimes, well, it's true, you really do abuse me. You get me in a crowd of high-class people, and then you act real rude to me. Yeah, but oh baby, 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 when you love me, I can't get enough. And I wanna spread the news that if it feels this good getting used, oh, you just keep on using me until you use me up. Yeah, until you use me up. Oh, until you use me up. Until you use me up.
Now, let them network.
clothes that you're wearing, to some extent, owe their existence to oil because they were taken in a car.
Walk along the river, sweet lullaby. They just keep on flowing. They don't worry about where it's going. No, no. Don't fly, Mr. Bluebird. I'm just walking down the road. Early morning sunshine tells me all I need to know. Yeah, yeah. You're my blue sky, you're my sunny day. Lord, you know it makes me high when you turn your love my way. Turn your love my way. Good old Sunday morning, bells are ringing everywhere. Going to Carolina, won't be long and I'll be there. Hey. You're my blue sky, you're my sunny day. Lord, you know it makes me high when you turn your love my way. Turn your love my way.
All right, let's give it up for Department of Energy one more time. They're bringing such a good, oh, Earth, Wind, and Forest Fires. Is that sorry, I forgot.
Oh, we changed her name again.
You changed it again?
Yeah, it's Led Zeldin.
Led Zeldin?
Yeah, we're a tribute to the current EPA administrator.
Oh, no. Okay. Well, I think, oh, wait. So, it's very important that you come back to your seats now because we have an actual climate comedian coming up.
this guy, he like actually does this, and you're going to be so into this. So everybody who's over there, we love the networking, but please cease to do that and nudge your neighbors to come and sit down. We're gonna get the show going as soon as there's 5 more people in their seats. Can we get there? I see a few more coming in. But we do love the socializing. That's really one of the value adds of the Canary Media event. You know, we support it. Yeah, okay. We got people coming in. I'm satisfied with that, and I'll shove the other people in as well. So, those of you who are here, we have all the way from Brooklyn, New York, Mr. Raleigh Williams.
Hey, thank you so much. Big hug from a guy I just met. Thank you so much.
I feel like I've known you for so long.
At least 6 minutes. All right, everybody on the count of 3, lower your expectations. All right, excellent. Just kidding. I'm gonna do good, I hope. Give it up one more time for the band of many names. It's not every day that I get to be in front of a band, so I'm gonna use this opportunity to coax a little solo out of these guys. So, keyboard, give me a lick. Oh yeah, give it up for the keyboard, baby. Bringing that old school funk, and by old school I mean the year 1945. Thank you very much. All right, give me a little bass line. Yeah, nice. Very flatulent at the end there. Felt like I was in the credit sequence of Seinfeld. All right, guitar man, drop me some knowledge. Oh. Cut it. Great work. Give it up big for the guitar. And what band would be complete without the guy who can drive the bus? Give me a drumlet. I'm just joking. Big ups to all drummers everywhere. Big ups to all. Give it up for the drums. I don't know why I felt so insecure that I had to take a shot at an actual artist, but if you could so do, give me a little drum stank. Yeah. Oh, very nice. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm gonna get this thing popping off. My name is Raleigh Williams, and this is a little piece I like to call Lost Media. Is anyone familiar with this YouTube channel? Anybody at all? Okay. Under 5%. It's an away game for me. That's great. I need the practice. This is very good. Basically, I have a YouTube climate comedy series. I promise it's watchable. But we do extensive deep dives into various elements of the climate crisis, from parking lots to parking spots to congestion pricing to fast fashion. 50 minutes of video, 45 minutes on the parking spots in Chicago. In a word, it's exhausting, but it's a lot of fun. And I get to do deep dives into the fossil fuel industry and various climate disinformation, and I get to dig up old media that I really like. And there is one fossil fuel trope that I've found a lot of out there, and it is the classic fossil fuel move of you owe your life to oil and gas. Oh, hey, you're a protester? You're protesting? You want things to be better? Well, guess what? The modern world's full of oil and gas, and you might accidentally have to use some. Hey, protester, you know who you're protesting? Yourself! Checkmate, libs! It's a very classic trope, and we see it all throughout modern media. We see it in interviews and talk shows. I'm just gonna go ahead and roll you a clip, and you can judge for yourself.
You need to stop new oil
Let's get that volume up a little bit more there.
Your protests are by definition massively imperfect. I mean, the clothes that you're wearing, to some extent, owe their existence to oil because they were taken in a car or a truck or a van to a shop. You know, there are so many ways that oil impacts on your life.
Gotcha, activist. You're trying to improve the... Oh, sorry, hang on one sec. There we go. It's the living embodiment of this meme. Hey, we should improve society somewhat, yet you participate in society. I am very intelligent. It's that meme in a nutshell. It comes up all the time, including in media from this year. So this is a little show called Landman. Anybody ever heard of it? Yes. Yes, but although I will be mean to the show, so... Okay, awesome. Here we go. We're just going to watch a clip of it. Billy Bob Thornton cracking wise about the oil and gas industry.
We have a 120-year petroleum-based infrastructure. Our whole lives depend on it. And hell, it's in everything. That road we came in on.
It's in tennis rackets and lipstick and refrigerators and antihistamines, pretty much anything plastic. Your cell phone case, artificial heart valves, soap, fucking hand lotion, garbage bags, fishing boats, you name it. Every fucking thing.
Okay, so that is, that's a modern show. And it's on Paramount Plus. Who watches Paramount Plus, right? There's no way it's going to get clipped out of Paramount Plus and onto TikTok and get 80 million views off of just 3 posts, including the delightful caption, "Every left-winger should have their eyes held open and be forced to watch this on repeat until it sinks in." Okay, so this trope is alive and well. It's so alive and well that it's actually got its own sub-trope that I really like. What if oil and gas suddenly disappeared? Then you wouldn't be too happy about your modern life. Here's an ad from 1981 featuring Leslie Nielsen talking about Shell.
Imagine life today without oil and natural gas. Shell believes there is an answer to our energy problems. It is to find more and to use less.
Okay, that's 1981. Here is the same ad 43 years later.
That connection was brought to you by petroleum products. But what if we lived in a world without oil and natural gas?
Uh-oh!
Life would be very different because oil and gas are part of just about everything you touch.
Why was there a car?
Our world would be unrecognizable if the products we rely on just disappeared.
The famously plastic pigskin would disappear. And I did notice a thing. I was editing this video together, and I was like, oh, this guy's shirt looks pretty familiar. Oh, no, I have that shirt. And it is polyester, so, it would have disappeared. Okay, so I'm seeing these. It's in modern media. It's also in children's books. So this is called Petro Pete's Big Bad Dream. Petro Pete, of course, is a book series that is written and produced by the Oklahoma Energy Resources Board and placed in, everyone say it with me, public schools. Oh, no. And here's the plot of that. It's the same thing. Petro Pete goes to bed one night. He wakes up, there's no petroleum products, and his teacher, Mrs. Rigwell, says it's because you're missing all your petroleum products. And so I thought I had seen the best ones until I was on the internet late one night, and I found a listing for this. That's right, it's a clueless parody called Fuelless, You Can't Be Cool Without Fuel. It's a 17-minute video produced by the American Petroleum Institute, of course, one of the biggest lobbying arms of the fossil fuel industry. But the thing that really stuck out to me, besides being a parody of Clueless, was this description: uses pop music and dance to illustrate the often invisible role petroleum products play in our lives. And of course, if that wasn't good enough, the cast includes a real science teacher and several teens. Said the oldest, creepiest man in the world. Here's the problem with the Fuelless, You Can't Be Cool Without Fuel. It does not exist online. It is nowhere to be found. This is the missing media of our lifetimes. It's also not in any library. It's not on the interlibrary loan system. I tried to get a copy out of Oklahoma. They wouldn't give it to me. No one can get a copy of this. The only confirmed way to watch this is by going to the Illinois Oilfield Museum. Physically going to the Illinois Oilfield Museum, located, of course, conveniently in the devil's asshole of Louisville, St. Louis, and Indianapolis. You have to call the man who runs it to drive to the museum to unlock the door so that you can watch a VHS copy on their couch and then leave. There's no way to get this video. This is missing media. Is what a fucking hack would say, folks. I got it for you. A guy was... Oh, wow, okay. Here's what happened. We converted a keynote to a PowerPoint, and it doesn't have the cutoff of this song. So we're gonna listen to the whole song. No, we don't have to. I do have this for you, though, and we're just gonna watch it from second 0 and just see what there is to see. I'm not gonna make you watch the whole thing. We're gonna watch about a minute of it. Don't even sweat it. Yep, there it is. Okay. It's so bad, you guys. Here we go.
You're absolutely not going to believe this, but almost everything I have that's really cool comes from oil.
That's the opening shot of this video, okay? I popped in a random DVD I got in the mail from a guy who said he had the Fuelist copy, and that's what showed up. And I was like, oh my God. They made a teenage actress get naked for some oil propaganda aimed at middle school students. So wherever that woman is, I'm so sorry this happened to you. But let's just go ahead and watch the opening, the raison d'etant of this film.
You're absolutely not going to believe this, but almost everything I have that's really cool comes from oil.
Same fucking plot.
Okay, I didn't believe it either until something really weird happened. Everything I had that came from oil just
cover your ears.
disappeared.
Yeah, no sound mixer on this video. Sound mixer out by noon that day, couldn't get him back. Can't crank those dials down. That's the opening. That's the sort of, hey, here's what happened. There's no rationale. She just wakes up and all of her petroleum products are gone. Still got a hairdryer made of plastic. Plugged it in, didn't work. Electricity in Texas in 1996, probably not a petroleum product. Whatever. There's plot holes, okay? We don't have time for that. We're going to go to the immediately next scene. There we go.
I mean, it was so depressing. All my friends at school were still looking totally great, and there I was, no makeup, a serious case of bedhead, and wearing like burlap.
Woof. Okay, first problem, her best friend, they have dressed like a 45-year-old Republican congressperson. And they're like, oh, we gotta make her look like a teen, because we did promise there would be several teens in this. So let's just have her hold a copy of 17 magazine, like you do if you're a teen. But it wasn't reading under her shoulder. They're like, oh, just have her hold it out like she's waiting for somebody at the airport. That's perfect. And look, it would be insane of somebody to watch this piece of oil propaganda and then go hunt down that particular copy of 17 magazine, rifle through it until I got to page 27 where there was an actual Clueless reference. So I wouldn't do that. I didn't do that. But the point is that an Easter egg? No, it's just sloppy. All right, so that's that scene. We get the sort of setup. And then what do we have next? She meets her teacher, and her teacher takes her inside the magic science book, and we go to an oil field, and here
And
it
I
is.
go like, hello, where are we? And she says,
this is an oil field.
Like she thinks I'm clueless or something.
Clueless, take a drink.
Miss Watkins, you must think I'm totally clueless.
Clueless, take another drink.
Clueless isn't
Clueless,
exactly
take
the
another
word
drink.
that I had in mind, Crystal. What's abundantly clear is you are completely fuel-less.
Finish your drinks, folks. We got the title. Okay. I will give you so much money if you can guess what the next scene we're going to see is. Anybody just shout out a possible thing. An oil well. Cool. What was this? Football game. Great guesses all. Think of the greatest scene you could see, multiply it by 10, and that's what we're about to see. Car crash. This whole thing is kind of a macro car crash. Let's just get straight to it, because it's pretty delightful. Where are we going? Oh! It's an original song music video that's being danced to by a middle school intermediate jazz ballet team.
Couldn't find her clothes.
And they're lip syncing. And we're just gonna watch a little bit of this.
Couldn't blot her nose. She was furious.
An actually good dancer. They got one guy.
So hard.
Cut away immediately.
I have the worst headache. But there's no pill to take. It's the rudest. Life can be so.
Oh no. Okay, they really did do shy Joseph Gordon-Levitt dirty in this one. They told him the lyrics 1 second before they rolled tape, got one take, and he's like, can we do it again? No, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who didn't make it on Third Rock from the Sun, we got it from here. Okay, so we're at minute 2:58, we get to the music video. It's 3 minutes long, we're 6 minutes in, and then we get a whole bunch of bullshit. Okay, I'm not gonna make you watch any of this because it is truly boring. We get, oh, it's the history of oil. Now we're under the sea where oil comes from. Oh, there's oil in your plastic bags in some of the grocery stores. Oh my God, we're at an oil refining plant with a man whose mullet grew him. My God. Oh no, we're at a beautician place. There's oil products in your makeup. Oh, here we are. It's so bad, you guys. I'm so sorry. All right, but there's a question here, right? Like, why did the API do this? Okay, if you're a history buff, to put this in context, it's about 1996. The world is starting to consider maybe possibly addressing climate change in some way, if there's time, if everybody feels like it. So the API got some money dumped into it to kind of change the hearts and minds of middle school students. You don't have to take my word for it. There it is right there. But you can't really start this off by saying, hey, you're gonna hear a bunch of weird shit about climate change. Don't believe it, kids. You gotta get out in front of some other PR nightmare. What is the oil world also worried about people coming down on them for? Anybody? I'll give you a hint. It starts with Exxon and ends with Valdez. Oil spills, that's right. Hey kids, maybe oil spills aren't that bad, right? Maybe if we're marketing to middle school kids, we can squeeze a little bit of this propaganda in. How do they do it? Well, like this, of course.
Fortunately, the Earth isn't close to running out of oil anytime soon, but we need to be responsible about using what Mother Nature provides.
But then I remembered those oil spills I used to see on the news. That's responsible? What about oil spills?
Well, there's no fail-safe guarantee against oil spills, but there's a reason why you don't hear about them as much as you used to. Because...
Is there no fail-safe guarantee against oil spills? Could you not put oil in a tanker and send it across the ocean? Wouldn't that be kind of a fail-safe? Whatever. What is the solution that they're
Fortunately,
proposing?
the Earth isn't close to running out of oil anytime soon, but we need to be responsible about using what Mother Nature provides.
But then I remembered those oil spills I used to see on the news.
This is another PowerPoint problem.
That's responsible? What about oil spills?
Well, there's no fail-safe guarantee against oil spills.
Here we
But
go.
there's a reason why you don't hear about them as
Why
much
is
as you
it?
used to. Because stricter standards for oil tankers and the people who pilot them have been adopted.
Stricter standards have been adopted. It was the DEI hiring that crashed all those oil tankers, and now we got stricter standards. You'll never hear of an oil spill ever
Fortunately,
again. Wait. Oh, shit, there's a really funny song here. Hang on. You'll never hear of an oil spill ever again. I promised the audio drop was lined up in my keynote. It's okay. You'll never hear of an oil spill ever again. Can we bring There it is. Imagine that had hit right on there. That's the closer, and I beefed it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Now network! Network like your lives depend on it! Don't network, stop networking. There's something else. Give it back up for your host, everybody.
Okay, so we are actually going to kind of like follow off that with So we're going to be joined by a panel here. My colleague Maria Gallucci, senior reporter at Canary Media, interviewing Caroline Spears, who's the founder and executive director of the Climate Cabinet, which bills itself as sort of money ball for climate politics, using data to help local and state races win and do things for clean energy. And then Heather Reeves, president and CEO of Citizens for Responsible Energy Solutions, which works to implement conservative clean energy policies around the nation. So let's bring them on out and give them a nice warm Canary Media welcome.
I brought some extra people here so they'd cheer for me. You guys cheer. Yeah.
Always good to follow a comedian.
We don't have any cool songs, but
That's
we'll try.
a first, following fun.
Well, thank you everybody for joining. Just to reintroduce ourselves, I'm Maria Gallucci. I'm a senior reporter for Canary Media. I'm joined by Heather Reeves, president and CEO of Citizens for Responsible Energy Solutions. And Caroline Spears, founder and executive director of Climate Cabinet.
You can do it.
So both of your organizations work to support elected officials who champion the clean energy transition, but by taking different approaches, both in terms of the political offices that you focus on, and for the most part, the political parties. So can you both describe the work that your organizations do and your strategy? Heather, starting with you.
Sure. So, friends, I am a Republican, and I believe that the climate is changing. I also believe that we need to reduce emissions, so I do that in Washington, D.C. The organization I run, Citizens for Responsible Energy Solutions, engages Republicans and talks to them about the benefits of clean energy, how it's creating jobs all across the country, how it's securing our national security and making us safer, and how it's cleaning up our environment, making sure we have clean air and clean water for generations to come. We focus on the federal level, so we mostly work with members of Congress and then the administration. This is God's work, friends, God's work, and engaging Republicans. Most of my team, if not all of them, are all Republicans. We all believe that the climate is changing, and we meet members where they are. So sometimes they're like, I don't subscribe to your climate thing. I'm like, all right, but do you like solar, or do you like what's in your district? Or, you have a $5 million project going in with 300 jobs. Oh, I like that. So we try to kind of meet members where they are and educate them. And then over time, creating a relationship with the member, their staff, giving them the facts. Because oftentimes, some of these members have been ignored. And over the course of a decade, we've been able to create a conservative climate caucus, where members of Congress, all Republicans, recognize that the federal government has a role in addressing climate change and that the climate is changing. So this is a pretty big step forward than when we were maybe even 10 years ago. Thank you.
Hi, all. My name's Caroline Spears. I'm the founder and executive director of Climate Cabinet, and I do not work in Washington, D.C., which feels, I gotta be honest with you guys, great right now. So what we do is we help elect state and local climate champions to public office across the country. So thinking about 2026, this is gonna range from county commissions, public service commissions, state lawmakers, land commissioners, any section of that ballot I'm excited about, and I'm excited to have a conversation about that today.
Cool. Great, thank you, both. Caroline, I'm curious if you could elaborate a little bit more on some of the races that you're most focused on or really excited about for 2026, and why it's so important to get in now at this stage in 2025.
It's kind of wild to be talking about the 2026 elections today. Last Friday, early voting started in Virginia for their elections this November, so we're kind of doing two things at once here. But what we really focus on at Climate Cabinet is opportunities we call Moneyball opportunities. They're places where we can get a lot done, and they're flying under the radar. So, I will never talk about the U.S. Senate. I try not to, as a rule. But some of the opportunities I'm really excited about in 26 are like the New Mexico Land Commissioner. So this is a great example, actually, our first endorsement of 2026. We just launched it. I'm very excited about it. And the Land Commissioner is an incredibly important role that will bore you to tears if we go into too much detail on it, but we're just going to a little bit. The Land Commissioner oversees all state lands in New Mexico. And the power of this office is truly incredible. They control renewable energy siting, renewable energy procurement, over an enormous quantity of state lands, so much so that $3 billion in royalties come from these state lands every single year and go directly into the state budget, funding schools, funding hospitals, and funding roads. And it's a land commissioner who's in charge of saying, where do those dollars come from, and how do we make sure that they're diversifying their energy source and bringing as many of those jobs from solar, wind, batteries as possible. So that's just one of the things I'm excited about for 26. And we'll have 99 others next year.
Thanks. Heather, kind of looking back a little bit, Krez applauded Republican lawmakers who advocated for protecting clean energy tax credits in the recent budget process, including by sending letters to the House and Senate speakers that cautioned against fully curtailing those incentives. How do you view the outcome of those efforts, given that the One Big Beautiful Bill Act accelerates the phase-out of wind, solar, residential, clean energy, other tax credits?
Couple things there. First of all, yes, for sure, the OBBB, I call it OB3. It sounds like a Star Wars person or something, but OB3. So OB3 definitely rolled back some of the IRA tax credits. It kept many of them. I think one piece to know is that the IRA, the tax credits that were rolled back, it could have been a lot worse. There were, not all Republicans acknowledge that the climate is changing. Not all like renewable tax credits, don't see the world like we do here, right? And that's what Congress is about, compromise. And the majority of, is Republican right now. So it was a churn to try to get Republicans to try to say, protect them. So in the House, which Maria is referring to, is a number of members of Republicans, 21, signed a letter to Mike Johnson, who is the chair or the head of the Speaker of the House, Republican Speaker of the House, and said, look, we like some of these tax credits. We should talk about them. They help America. There are jobs in my district. It matters. Let's have a conversation. The bill got better, it got worse, but it's not great. It went over to the Senate, and then it got a whole lot worse. So then they put it in the Senate, they put in kind of hey, we're gonna retroactively tax renewable energy. And this came from the head of the Energy and Natural Resources Committee. So we're fighting on so many fronts there. So the political wins are challenging. The president also put tremendous pressure on Republicans. You all know this is the second term of the Trump administration. Who has been successfully in the bullseye of President Trump? Not many people. And I think there's just a lot of unknowns with members of Congress. What I see now with members of Congress, though, both Republican and Democrat, I think they are very much looking at more of an all of the above. We need to kind of, what you have in your states and your districts you need to use, and we need to reduce emissions. I think that's almost where most members are. That is not where the White House is. So I think those same 21 are the core of members that we can work with and bring them in, partner with their Democratic counterparts to create more business certainty and better legislation moving forward. Let's face it, putting your name out there and saying, let's protect tax credits that were passed by a Democratic majority, no Republicans, that President Trump put it in his campaign to say we're gonna get rid of. These are brave individuals, and they do deserve to be celebrated. And that's kind of the work, some of the work that we do. We recognize that middle ground, and then we're going to pick that back up and run forward with it and with new legislation, like permitting reform that's coming up this fall.
I was going to ask you to expand on what policy levers you see that you can pull, permitting reform being one of them, sort of going forward to advance the transition.
Yeah, there's a terrific bill that's let's call it a starter bill, right? It's a bill that's starting out of the House of Representatives and the Natural Resources Committee. The chairman, who is a Republican, is spearheading this with a Democratic member, and they're kind of making the rounds and educating people about the pros and cons of it. They're taking feedback. I was talking with the chairman last week, and he's like, do you think we should put something in the bill about maybe protecting those permits, those projects that have been permitted, so that they cannot be retroactively pulled back once they've been permitted? I'm thinking offshore wind. Yeah, I can think of a whole industry that would like this right now that we need to protect. That's providing jobs. That's providing, the energy and moving forward. I mean, New England, the Mid-Atlantic, they all need all the energy they can get, and we're taking it off the grid when energy is more additive. So yeah, I think we should, if it's been permitted and it's gone through that crazy process, let's protect it. So I think we've got some very reasonable members trying to navigate. What they need is more education. They need our support. And they need us not to be so partisan. They need us to recognize tech neutral is good. And believe me, when clean energy gets its chance, it's going to win. Thanks. Amen, sister. Thank you.
Thank you. Carolyn, I wanted to ask, you talked about some of the offices that you are starting to endorse. Are there pieces of legislation or policies at the state and local level that Climate Cabinet's getting behind?
Yeah, and here's what's exciting about this. So before starting Climate Cabinet, I worked in the solar industry. That's what I did. And our job was to analyze during Trump 1, so during the last go-round of this situation. And what I did is I analyzed solar, 5 gigawatts of solar that we wanted to build across America. And that's what we had, that's what we're operating. We want gigawatts, tens, hundreds of gigawatts installed. Wind, solar, batteries. We need a transportation system that doesn't give kids asthma. That's the goal we're fighting for. And so when I think about Trump, I mean, you're right. Trump and the federal government, Trump's a deadweight on Congress's ability to act. You can have people in Congress who want to do the right thing, but one tweet from the White House, and it's really killing people's ambition and interest in engaging proactively and affirmatively on this issue. But there is something we can do for the next 3 years, is we got a whole lot of states. We can get a whole lot done in a whole lot of states. And that's what's really exciting right now. So we're talking about gigawatt scale improvements. Right now in Illinois, in just a few weeks, we will get called back for 4 or 5 days in the Illinois legislature. And during those 4 to 5 days, we have 6 gigawatts of battery storage on the table. That is what we have just in one state. That is one state, and our states are internationally important. So when you think about, okay, well, what's the big deal? You want Wisconsin to be 100% clean energy? And it's like, hell yeah, I want Wisconsin to be 100% clean energy. But Wisconsin has more emissions than the country of Norway. So if you see that headline and you see Norway, 100% clean energy, that is actually less exciting than the headline that says, Wisconsin, 100% clean energy, from what we're all here for, which is we want to build clean energy, we want to create the clean energy future that we want, and we want to solve climate change. I would I grew up in Houston. I want a world with fewer hurricanes, not more. I want kids with less asthma, not more. I want zero asthma. That's the goal that we're fighting for. And so it's not just Illinois. There are states across the country where we can do big things, and that's what I saw at the solar company, too. We had a bad Public Service Commission decision in the state, killed all of our projects in a state. That's the importance of these PSCs. That's why I started Climate Cabinet. So I was like, wait, you're telling me all these people are killing all our projects, and they're not in DC? They're in these other places across the country, and that's what led me to start Climate Cabinet, and that, I know that these people are the folks that can kind of accelerate our clean energy deployment or hold it back. And that's our avenue for the next 3 years, and I'm excited to do it.
A great audience, by the way. Thank you.
Caroline, following up with you, so you talk about the work Climate Cabinet does to get folks in office. What kind of follow-up does your organization do to support those people when they're, if they're successful?
Yeah, when people are clean energy folks and they're running for public office, we got to make sure they're elected. When they're champions on our issue, we got to make sure they stay in office. That's the first step. Second step is, okay, now someone's in office. When you walk into a state legislature, have y'all seen the stuff on utility bills and how your utility can charge you for their politics or their lobbying? Is that something? Okay, I talked to a lot of people beforehand. I was like, I think this is a crowd that's aware of this. But when I pay my electric bill, that should be for the electricity that's coming into my house. I don't want that going to my utility who gets to then make a political contribution or a lobbying. That should, like, what are we doing here? I'm paying for my lights to be on and my refrigerator to keep my food cold. That's what I pay my utility bills for. And so the result of that is you can kind of walk into state capitals across the country, and if you want to build clean energy, if you want to, good things, build this economic future that we want, it's going to lower bills, it's the fastest to grid, it's the cheapest to grid, that's what we want. You are outnumbered 10 to 1, 50 to 1, 100 to 1 in a state capital from folks who kind of have this like unlimited kind of blank check for lobbying and politics. So that's some of the challenges that we're facing, but that also provides, the flip side of that is that's the opportunity, is that there's a lot of places we can get involved in state capitals and make progress.
And Heather, how does CREZ work to support federal policymakers in their work? I know CREZ has a lot of in-district events and things like that.
Yeah, so we don't have a huge political footprint. So we do, a lot of it's kind of like the old-fashioned elbow grease, but it's also getting people engaged on the local level as well. So politics can be federal, but what matters is what's going on back at home. There's only so many times my team and I can go and speak to members, but they're really strengthened by what goes on at home, which is why, Caroline, your work is so important. But going into and bringing voices forward. So we do a fly-in every year, and we bring in, this is a Republican groups we talk to, and we bring in Republicans in the states and the districts that are prominent Republicans. It might be a state legislator, it might be someone head of a chamber of commerce, where that's the whole state or local. It's solar operators, people who have an R next to their names and say, hey, I'm with you. I'm a Republican too, and I'm with you. This isn't a partisan issue. This is not a red or blue issue. This is a red, white, and blue issue. And I'm here with you. I'm gonna vote for you, but can you make the tough vote? And it's more and more of those. So that's a very important piece we do. Sometimes it's like partnering. Many times I'll partner with a member of Congress where we have something in common. Doesn't mean we have everything in common, but let's say I just did an op-ed with a congressman from Ohio. We both know that permitting, I mentioned permitting earlier, I'm going to say it again, that our government's red tape is just too much, that we need to streamline it in some ways. Not getting rid of environmental protections, but putting some common sense in there. We don't want to take away anyone's due process or ability to counter something that's going to be hazardous to their communities or challenging to their communities, but to really streamline that. So it doesn't take 10 years to permit a simple project. The fact is that we're falling behind China. We're falling behind other countries. So how do we keep what's the best parts of America, protecting those that are vulnerable, protecting those who don't necessarily have a voice, but also moving our country forward? So writing an op-ed, partnering with them, giving them a platform. We give people an award as well, members of Congress an award. Like, thanks for taking a tough vote. I'll highlight Jen Kiggins from the Virginia Beach, Virginia, which is the southeastern part of Virginia. It's also where I'm from. There's an offshore wind project down there, and offshore wind's taken a beating these days. And she has been, as a Republican, steadfast on protecting that project and talking about the jobs that are coming from that, talking about the amount of energy that Virginia needs for its data centers. And she's been amazing, an amazing champion. So yeah, I mean, you're gonna say give her a medal? Yeah, give her a medal. Give her that goal and say thank you. Send out a press release and say thank you very much for what you're doing. We appreciate it. And by the way, she deserves it. So it kind of depends on who the member is, but there's a couple of examples right there.
Thank you. And to both of you, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but in terms of if an elected official, policymaker, they get into office, they were advocating for clean energy, and then over time, maybe they soften their stance or they walk back their ambitions. What kind of follow-up can your organizations do to I guess, apply pressure or kind of get them back to maybe where they were as champions of clean energy?
I want to talk about an example from North Carolina this past year. So North Carolina, the state legislature decided to pass a bill that gutted the climate action plan, and to get a little wonky for a second, but I feel like this is a little electricity wonky in the crowd. Okay, let's talk about affordability, right? They passed a bill that not only gutted the climate action plan, but at the same time, the utility can now build power plants and charge people for those power plants before they're built. Again, when you pay your electricity bill, you should pay for an electron that comes into your house. You're paying to keep your lights on and your fridge cold. You're not paying for them to start building a project that they might never complete. That's not in the contract. That's not the point of having utility. And so it drives up prices at a time where people are already facing kind of skyrocketing electricity bills. And unfortunately, in North Carolina, we had candidates, this panel's about bipartisanship, so we had a bipartisan group of policymakers who voted to pass that bill. The governor said, I don't think this is a good idea. I like solving climate change, I like clean energy jobs, and I don't think we should drive up rates for people across the state of North Carolina. And mostly Republicans, but also 3 Democrats overrode that veto to raise electricity prices for people of North Carolina in a year in which prices are already kind of skyrocketing, going through the roof. And that's a group of folks who, we can't support when they're running for re-election next year. That's not on the table. We can't do that. And the flip side of it is there's a bunch of great candidates who said, hey, I think this is gonna make air pollution bad and make your bills go up. And they stood up, and that was a challenging vote to take. They were in the minority on that. And I'm really excited to support them next year. They're all gonna be up. There's a ton of tough races in North Carolina next year. And some people really stuck their neck out for people's bills across North Carolina. And I'm looking forward to that next year.
We have a little bit of a different tact. We're about 10 years, 12 years old. We're building a movement of Republicans engaging on clean energy and championing clean energy and climate. You don't build a movement by beating shit out of people, right? You have to have more the honey piece. I'm not saying the greenwashing, because I know there's always a concern about greenwashing and giving them credit where maybe it's not due. But this is early stage. The reason why we do this work is not because we want Republicans to dominate clean energy. We want it because we need durable policy. We need Republicans and Democrats coming together and creating policy that's going to stand the test of time. Not 1 year or 2 years, or we're seeing this crazy pendulum of IRA, roll it back. Something else, roll it back. This is crazy for businesses. We're in the capital of finance and money right here in New York right now. Ask anybody out there who's saying, I'm trying to invest. I can't. The uncertainty is crazy. So we're in a different stage of engaging members. So maybe they soften, maybe they don't. But we have such authentic relationships with members, Republican members. We can go into their offices to say, what you're voting, we're not voting the way we expected. Why? What's going on? Where are the dynamics? We can go back to some of our donors, let them know some of the challenges that are there, where we have resource scarcity, so that we can continue to build. It's not perfect. We know it's not perfect. There's a lot of surprises along the way, but in the end, what we're trying to build is bipartisanship for good, solid policy that's going to benefit all Americans.
One thing, kind of take a different sort of question, but I'm curious how your groups think about the term clean energy and what counts as clean energy. Maybe it's nuclear, carbon capture and storage, hydrogen from fossil fuels. So what counts, and to what extent does it matter? Or how does that sort of definition come into play for you all?
For us, this is a pretty simple definition, which is it's clean energy if it doesn't produce greenhouse gas emissions. And that's it. That's the definition. Yeah. If you have follow-ups, I'm happy to talk more. Yeah. But just to keep it really simple, if it doesn't heat the planet up, again, I'm from Houston. I've evacuated from over 3 hurricanes in my life. If it doesn't mean that my family has to get into an 8-hour car ride to drive what should be a 3-hour car ride all the way across Texas because the waters are too high and it's hurting people's families, it's hurting people's livelihoods, then I'm in. Sign me up.
Again, I mentioned we're building a movement, so ours is much more nuanced. So we look at clean energy as technologies, energy sources that are reducing emissions. So we can't go from emission producing to zero. There's no pathways for that. We can't get to net zero by 2050 with the technologies that we have right now. So Republicans, if I walked into a Republican's office and said, you have to reduce emissions so we're at net zero by 2050, they're going to throw me out of the room. They're not going to listen to what I'm saying. So I have to meet them where they are. I have to talk about the technologies and the goals of trying to get there. Not to say, well, we will get there, and we're going to do there for government mandates. There's a mandate, and we have to hit it. So, for instance, talking about displacing coal with natural gas reduces emissions significantly. The United States is reducing emissions faster than any other country in the world, and I think it's the top 10 producers of pollution in the world, aside from China, because we've displaced coal with natural gas. That's progress. Is that everything? No, it's not everything. But is it moving forward? Yes. Another piece is making sure that same member who really loves natural gas is also understanding the benefits of solar, understanding the benefits of offshore wind, understanding the benefits of the future of fusion or nuclear, whatever that is, and making sure that everything is on the table, but the goal of reducing emissions is kind of that North Star. So we're not asking right now to say you have to support renewable energy or else, but we are engaging in, please vote for technologies and resources and government programs and interventions that are going to help reduce emissions over time. Ideally by 2050, but if we can't get there, I'd take 2052 if we had to, right? So I just, the enemy and the perfect of the good, we're very much there right now. I'd say the other piece is that we're more carrots, no sticks. Again, building up that nature of finding members and meeting them where they are. A lot of the members that are engaging with us and working with us can come from a purple district, right? They're kind of 50% Republican, 50% Democrat, or kind of a 33, 33, 33. It's tough to be in those positions. So we have to be cognizant of where that member is, and it can't be as black and white as I think that some would like us to be, because what we're building just wouldn't be sustainable.
I mean, I think that's fair, but I also think you have 21 House Republicans, which we were very excited about. They signed onto this letter saying, we're going to protect the IRA, we're going to protect the clean energy tax credits. And they all voted not to.
They didn't say let's protect them, I'll say that.
It didn't work. And I get, right, you're trying to build, I agree with the fundamental premise of what you're saying, which is we have to build a clean energy economy, and we have to get Republicans on board. But I think you had all these people sign this letter, and we were on a panel right after the election. It was like, we got all these people to sign this letter, and none of them voted for it.
We didn't get them to sign the letter. My team and I and others got them to sign that letter. And let me just tell you the blood almost extracted to try to get that. The next that they stuck out. When you're a member of Congress and you have to raise so many thousands of dollars to run, and it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then you have President Trump or Elon Musk or someone else come out there and say, you know what, you're done. You're done, thanks for playing. Totally. That's where they are right now. So am I saying I'm happy with every single Republican and how they voted? Do I agree with it as an organization? Absolutely not. But when we're talking about sticking their necks out and how I'm going to work with them next time, you want me engaging with those 21 members.
I agree with
Take
you.
it on the other side, on the Senate side, and getting those members who said, wow, you guys really didn't stand up. So let's get 4 members who took their necks out to say, you know what, we're going to actually go against Thune, Trump, and all of them. And the rest of you, the hell with you. We're senators, we're in for 6 years, and we're going to do it. You know what they did? They made sure that bill wasn't as bad as it was. I'd say that's a win. Is it everything? No. But give us some credit.
Oh, I'm like, listen, I give y'all a lot of credit. I think the work that you've been doing, and like this is the panel we were on, right? The work that you guys are doing, it's really hard. And I have a lot
God's work, Caroline, God's work.
Amen. Like the work you're doing is incredible. You're working on, but you're working on a long-term goal and a long-term mission. And it doesn't mean you don't have short-term, but the short-term outcomes haven't been that great this year, and it's because you're working on the future.
Are Democrats doing it on their own? Have Democrats successfully reduced emissions? I guess is my question. Have they done it on their own? The answer is no.
I don't think this is about Democrat versus Republican.
Well, you're asking. We're building something where Republicans haven't traditionally been there.
Our policymakers doing the investment and creating the economy that we need and lowering the pollution that we need. And it's not about, I'd agree, it's not, I just don't think this is about Democrats or Republicans at all. I think this is about which politicians are willing to create and invest in the economy of the future and which aren't. And I just don't think that's I can name you Republicans and Democrats who are not interested in solving that, and then I can name you folks who are. And it's just about the tack you use to take it there.
So I'm what
This
I'm
is
doing.
a fun panel, guys.
What I'm
This is
what-
always good.
What
Yeah, we like this stuff.
What I'm doing is maybe futile. So
I don't think it's futile at all.
But what's the alternative? I mean, do I tell those 21 they need to like, don't worry about it, guys. Next time, hang it up. We're not going to work with you moving forward.
No, I think the work you're doing is important, and I would also, but I think.
Just what would I do? What should I do? Listen, and after this panel, what should I do? As a Republican, after the panel, we can't take questions. But I want to hear, what would you do? Because this is organic. No one has done what we've been able to do before in working with a right-of-center organization that is literally saying, we support solar, wind, it all. We want it all. We want to reduce emissions. We want to be net zero by 2050. All these things. We don't want kids with asthma. I have kids. I don't want them. I want the same things. I don't want hurricanes. I'm from Virginia Beach, Virginia. I got evacuated too. I know how this goes. What do we do?
I think you do what you're doing.
Democrats haven't solved
great.
it by themselves, and I know that most durable policy, most policy that it's actually been most transformative in this country has been bipartisan. I'm only going off of history. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe we're going to strike a lottery and get everyone, the sun, the moon, the stars, and we're all going to get everyone to vote a certain way. Oh wait, and then you know what happens? It flips, and then they trash those laws and create something else, and then you have business uncertainty. Like I'm
not
my
here
hair
for
out trying to figure out how to do this.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
it's really hard.
help me
I empathize with how challenging it is. I think you've set yourself a good goal, and you're working kind of to achieve that, and I think that's fantastic. And I think what I fundamentally come down to is steel in the ground. And so, yeah, you can pass a bill, and that bill can get ripped up. And we're all thinking about the IRA right now, but there's a lot of state legislation. You know that North Carolina, I just said the North Carolina example. I said they got rid of their Climate Act. Well, over the last 15 years, North Carolina spent a decade being a leader in actually building solar. So sure, the law got cut, and we're not happy about it. But that law was there for a while, and it meant that real steel in the ground, real jobs for people, actually the fun thing about North Carolina solar is it put money into rural school districts across the state. That's real progress for folks. And yeah, it's just hard to rip steel out of the ground. Once you get it in, and we didn't have enough time with the IRA, like this is why I'm saying I'm supportive of what y'all are doing. I wish, we all wish things had been a little different over the last few months, but the exciting thing fundamentally about the work that we're doing is there's politics and there's policy involved, but there's also, and this is what I kind of love about this work, is that there's real physical things that make people's lives better. There's heat pumps, and there's home electrification, and there's solar, and there's wind, and those are reducing people's costs today and actually making folks' lives better across the country, and I'm excited about that. And once it's there, you can rip the law up, but that solar plant's still there, baby, and I'm happy about it. It's good.
Thank you both. I really appreciate the conversation, and we will continue it off stage.
Thanks, y'all. Us disagreeing.
Thank you. That was fun. Actually, I'm going to go out and, sorry. Okay, that was fun. That was fun. We got some conversations happening here at Canary Media. So we're going to now kick off another one of our quick videos from a group that's out in the desert Southwest, Native Renewables, bringing clean and affordable energy to indigenous families. And let's roll that video real quick.
Hey everybody at Climate Night Live, good to see you. I am Suzanne Singer. I am one of the co-founders and executive director of Native Renewables. Our organization is investing in indigenous families who have historically been under-resourced. And we are implementing solar energy solutions in a sustainable way and also incorporating our cultural values. We are indigenous led. We're building on a collective 50 plus years of solar experience and working in Hopi and Navajo communities based across Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. As of now, we've been able to bring power to at least 120 families and we are looking forward to increasing our impact every year. I'm super proud that we've been able to get to this point. It's been 10 years. We have a staff of 20. It's so nice to hear when families tell us they love that someone cares enough to help them in the remote areas that they live in. And we're just really excited for the possibilities of the future to thrive and to grow our impact. Thank you to everyone at Canary Media and everyone there in New York. I hope you're having a good time, and I hope to meet you soon.
Hey, maybe a round of applause for the work of the group there and Native Renewals. And we actually have Suzanne from that video here. She came all the way out from northern Arizona, so we wanted to bring her out. So like,
into the mic and loud. Okay.
yeah. So I mean, the videos were for bringing in voices from around the country. You're here. What would you want the audience to know about the work bringing solar to the indigenous community in the Desert Southwest? Like, what's the need there, and then what kind of impact are you having with the work you're doing?
So I am from the Navajo Diné Nation. Yat Suzanne Schininger Yanishia Katnasahne Nishle Nakated and Bashashin Bipatodida Chanela. And I am from a community that's very rich in culture. We live off the land. We know what it's like to respect the sun, the solar cycles, and farming and planting. So it's been amazing to be able to bring that cultural knowledge, to actually bring light and literal power to families who maybe want that for refrigeration, who have never had that before because they grow traditional crops and they want to freeze them, or they want to weave at night, or they just simply want to take school or classes or learn from home. And so it's been an amazing time. The best part of our job is when we see families switch on that light switch, and from that video, you wouldn't know it, but we're hiding behind a couch, like trying really hard not to cry because they're so excited to have lights, just to have family over.
Wow.
Yeah.
And are some of these households people who didn't have electricity before, and this is like a new, bringing it to parts of the country where the grid never reached originally?
Yeah, so there's a lot of lack of infrastructure, roads, water, electricity. So they literally cannot tie into the electric line.
Wow.
And so
Okay.
having the opportunity to bring solar, 1 unit per 1 home, can change their lives. And there's about 15,000 homes that we're trying to support, and we're trying to do more and more every year. And I think the other pieces of that is the knowledge that we bring about off-grid solar. It's not like you can just buy more power. You have to learn to live with what you generate. And also being able to, you saw some of our team there, people from the communities that we support, because we want to grow that knowledge locally based. We don't want to import that. We're really trying to be resilient, independent, have people own their power and use it as they want to.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how can people kind of stay in touch with the work you're doing or follow along? Any info you can leave the audience with?
Yes, well, I will be here for a little bit if you want to say hi. Obvious t-shirt. Chelsea in the back there also has a Native Renewables t-shirt. You can follow us on social media. Obviously, we will accept donations in support of this work because we donate systems to the family because we believe in supporting some of their livelihood and opportunity as well. And yeah, please share what you know about our work. I think that's probably the biggest impact you can make. There's probably other things I'm forgetting, but feel free to come talk to us.
That's fantastic. Okay, let's give a round of applause for Suzanne. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you. Yeah.
And that brings us actually to the final portion of our night. So we are going to do a live podcast taping with David Roberts, the Volts podcast. If you haven't been mesmerized by his voice before, you're about to be now. And he's interviewing really one of the all-time great clean energy analysts out there. It's Michael Liebrich. He founded BNEF, which is one of the leading data, research shops covering clean energy. He's now doing investing at EcoPragma Capital, and he's a managing partner there, and also CEO of Liebrich Associates. And they are going to come and just rock your world with some real knowledge, some hot takes, some unvarnished opinions. So get back in those seats. If you're not in those seats, try to keep those murmurs down nice and quiet for the podcast recording. And let's give a really warm welcome to our podcasters right now. Let's go, David and Michael. Got the nice frosty beer ready to go. That's perfect. This is, yeah, that's the fueled conversations here at Canary Media. Okay, I'll get out of your way.
Hey, everybody. Hello. Woo. I wish I could play the Volts music, but you can all just imagine it in your heads. Welcome, everyone. Everybody over there, shut up. Come sit down. So we're here today to chat about various things. Michael just wrote a couple of pieces framed as a climate reset. And so I thought we'd talk about a few of the themes he brought up in that, and maybe to start with, why is it that everyone all of a sudden thinks we need climate resets? Because there are at least 4 or 5 high-profile, we need to reset on climate pieces floating around with different emphases, but maybe just start like, why is this? What do you think is going into this? What do you think is causing this outbreak of reset, whatever?
So it's great to be here. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, David. So I was really bummed because I've been meaning to write a climate reset piece for some time. And, I write for Bloomberg. I don't do anything else for them, but I do write. But those pieces take me a long time to sort of give birth to, and it took ages. And Tony Blair...
You got scooped by
Tony Blair. I got scooped by Tony Blair, who came up with this climate reset, and he said, we got to be pragmatic. We got to do direct air capture, just like Climeworks is doing in Iceland. And we got to do lots of nuclear SMRs, and we got to do post-combustion CCS. And I'm like, this is... How can I put it nicely? Well, it's kind of after the watershed time, so this is kind of bullshit. So I had to do my reset then in the wake of Tony Blair's. But why is it that there's this spate of... Because I think that the kind of society's response, the zeitgeist, what do we think of climate, is suddenly up for grabs in a way that it hasn't been for, I'm going to say, 5 or 7 years. There's been a consensus. Frankly, I think it's been a fairly stultifying consensus, very conventional. It's been very transgressive to disagree with it. And then suddenly, you could say Trump's election kind of enabled a lot of people, by the way, on the fossil side to say, oh, we need a reset. The transition it's not working. The grown-ups always knew it wouldn't work, and now we got to stop doing this silly stuff. So everybody has basically got a reset going, including me.
Yeah, and Tony Blair's reset, I don't know if people caught this piece, but it is surreal, let's just say. It is bizarre to the point that I feel like it needs a psychological diagnosis rather than analysis. But basically, it seems like the consensus among very serious people, the Tony Blairs of the world, the sort of center-right, center-left, third-way types, is somehow that wind and solar and batteries, which are getting cheaper all the time and have become the cheapest source of energy in the world, we need to give up on that silliness and instead focus on the 2 ways of reducing climate emissions that are the number 1 and the number 2 most expensive way to reduce climate emissions. And I just don't know how to address that analytically. I feel like, are there economic forces at work? Like, who is generating this opinion? Because you can see that that's crazy by just Googling. You know what I mean? So, what is happening that is bringing people around to this odd view?
So I think that I think it's symptomatic of a bigger disconnect or a bigger problem, which is that a lot of the most influential voices in this are entirely I'm going to offend some people, they're entirely non-STEM educated. They basically don't have a clue. And if you don't have a clue, then you just chase the latest shiny thing. And there's a lot of misinformation out there. It's quite clear that, there are people who still think that, all of the EVs, all of their batteries, all of the minerals are dug out of one country, the DRC, Congo, out of artisan mines run by and staffed entirely by children. And, as you say, you could Google and find, of course, there's a huge problem of child labor, by the way, in lots of industries, but the misinformation is being spread deliberately, and also it has kind of truthiness, right? If you're part of a group that doesn't like something, then you'll believe is this news? I don't think this is news, right? Not here, not now. And so the most absurd nonsense gets propagated as truth by a whole bunch of people pretending to be grown-ups.
But why is it, I guess, a lot of this sounds like big business whispering in Tony Blair's ear, but solar and wind is big business. Solar and wind and batteries are big business. Are they not, like, when you travel internationally, you talk to a lot of rich people, powerful people, you talk to those circles. Are the wind and solar, are they just not big enough to be throwing their weight around in those circles? You know what I mean? Like, why can't they pay Tony Blair to write some hagiographic piece for them?
I don't think Tony Blair is being sort of directly paid by a bunch of oil and gas companies. I don't think it's as simple as that. First of all, in terms of, wind and solar are big businesses. So on the technology side, they may be big businesses in China. There are almost no big manufacturers, none of solar, none of batteries in the West. There are a few decent-sized wind companies in the Vestas and Siemens Gamesa, but there's a couple of things. First, they're not that big, and also, I hate to say it, but they don't fight dirty, and they don't do the stuff. If you really wanted somebody to buy some politicians, they're much too nice to do that. So it just doesn't. The dynamic is just extremely asymmetric.
Yeah, you would think they would be hiring some throat cutters, from oil and gas. Like you'd think they would. It's the same in the U.S. They're just soft, and they talk. We want bipartisan, and everybody can come together, and they're just like it's like begging to get a wedgie, basically, in the political scrum, and consequently they do. They get wedgies. So yeah.
Yes, and also there's just a misunderstanding, I think, of how to win arguments, which is, this was something that I mentioned in my most recent piece, the second part of the Pragmatic Climate Reset. I had a go at you, as you know, for calling, people who are, deep climate contrarians, you called them, what was it? It was ignorant and inattentive. And the problem is, I've met a lot of climate contrarians, and they're not ignorant. They're very knowledgeable. They know their stuff, and they're not inattentive. They're very concerned. And so there is this kind of idea amongst the Kumbaya crowd, of which you are a fully paid up member, in my book at least, David, that says, if only we could get these people the right information, they would somehow be cured. And it's a complete misreading of what they're doing, what their role is, what they're concerned about, how the debate works, how you win the debate, how you win the politics, how you get stuff built. Because even the thing of saying, can't they just hire a nastier PR company? It's like, you think that would work? Do you think just that one move, as opposed to really understanding how the culture works? I mean, I hate to say it, but the climate community and I don't know what to call it, I don't want to just associate it with Democrats here, but they're just losing the arguments. They're not, and largely it's because one side is trying to win with logic, and the other side is just trying to entertain. And it's totally asymmetric.
Oh my goodness. Well, let me just defend one bit of calumny there. I've long since abandoned the idea that if you get people good information, they will behave in rational ways. Believe me, I'm well past that. But it does seem that one of the things I found that was missing from your piece, that is missing from a lot of these pieces, is they sort of describe the public has decided X, Y, and Z, like wind and solar are too expensive, or they don't work, or whatever. And what's missing is the mediation between the phenomenon and those conclusions, and what's mediating is a giant disinformation industry that is almost completely dominated by the right at this point. So people are drawing false conclusions based on false propaganda, not because democratic arguments aren't good. They don't hear democratic arguments. They don't hear good arguments. They hear caricatures of their opponents on Fox News, etc. But I want to move on to a policy question, because this, and I think this touches on, actually, this gets to the difference between sort of pure economics and, call it, perception. So you and I agree that electrotech, let's call it, solar, wind, batteries, VPPs, demand response, the whole network of networked electricity is 90% of the solution, and here today, and worth pursuing, and falling in cost, and succeeding. And that story is true with the odd exception of EVs. Like, EVs are the one bit of that technology that is going slower than predicted rather than faster than predicted. Like, I think solar's spreading faster than anybody always thinks. Batteries are spreading faster than everybody thinks. Everything's spreading faster, but EVs aren't. What's your why?
So I don't agree with that. I think that that just depends on what forecast at what point for EVs. And also, I hate to say it, but whether you've also fallen into the same trap of believing that there's an EV slowdown. 1 in 2 cars sold in China is an EV, right? 25%.
Well, there's China and there's everybody else, right?
25% of cars worldwide being sold today are EVs. So I don't know what forecast you were looking at, but if somebody had told me when I was starting New Energy Finance or even, so I remember, let me tell you, I went in 2016, when I was still with Bloomberg NEF. I mean, I was non-exec. I was like chairing things, but I was still invited to the summits. And I went to one in, I think it was Shanghai, and there was a very senior Chinese official who was on a panel with Colin McCarraher, the head of EVs at Bloomberg, was moderating. And Colin asked this very senior official, in 2040, I think it may have been 20, yeah, I think it was 20, may have been 2030, probably 2030, story's better if it's 2030, what percentage of cars will be EVs? And this chap said 80. And Colin said 18. 18, that's huge. And the guy said, no, 80. And I was in the audience going, holy moly, he's smoking something. And of course, they are entirely on track to have 80% of sales EV.
Sales, not vehicles on the road.
But that's part of the misinformation, or part of the problem. Right now, worldwide, 25% of vehicles being sold are electric, and 4% of the fleet. So when you look around, you don't see EVs. Of course you do in California. Of course you do in Norway. You go to most places, you don't see EVs, right? They are being bought, but you've got an 18 or 20-year life of a car, right? And the average age of a car on the road is 11 years, and most people think that means that cars last 11 years. They don't. They last 22 years if there's no, it's just the maths. And so what do you expect to see? This is actually something that I covered in part 1 of my piece, which is if your view of the transition is radical and dramatic, right? We're going to just sort of walk away from 50% of our fossil fuel. We're going to cut emissions by 50% by 2030, means walking away from 50% of all of our energy infrastructure in 12 years or whatever, from when that, 5 years now. It's not going to happen. It was never going to happen. So if you measure against that, and of course you think that it's not, and if you measure EVs against, well, I don't see 25%, I don't see 50%, I don't see, well, of course you don't, but you will. But you will, because there is a transition going on, and it is happening.
Awesome. Well, on the other end of the electrotech spectrum, I had another question for you. So, I agree, obviously, like 80%, 90% is stuff we already have, let's pursue it. And you make the point that a lot of these, some of these heavy industries that people are very concerned with and spend a lot of time talking about and worrying over are just not that big global emissions source. And if that's all that's left emitting in 2040, like, we'll be well off. Granted all that. But what I wonder is, why do you not have faith in electrochemistry tackling, say, green steel or green concrete? Or, like, if you believe that electricity, a clean electricity, is going to become super cheap and super abundant, why can't we use that to create steel electrochemically? Why don't you think that's solvable? Why don't you think that's in reach?
Is this like a hydrogen question masquerading as an electrochemistry question?
No. I don't even think you need hydrogen. Like, it's not all electrochemistry is hydrogen.
No, so I do. If the Boston metal process can be made to work, it will beat any other way of making steel, right? It certainly will beat hydrogen, because why would you take electricity and make hydrogen to make steel? Why wouldn't you just take the electricity and make some damn steel? I have an investment in a company called MacArthur Metals, which is doing electrochemically magnesium. Magnesiums are fantastic. It's a structural metal. It's lighter than aluminium, and if you can make it just, electrically rather than, because the way it's made now is in China, you bake rocks, and it's very cheap because the people who do the rock baking die young, right? Now you've got to get, if you really want to sell your electrochemically made magnesium, you've got a real challenge to do it cheaper than baking rocks. And so it's very hard, but I invested, and I'm hoping that it works. So I am a big fan of a huge fan of electrochemistry. But let me just say one thing, which is, if what you need is heat, then our biggest problem for high temperature stuff is that natural gas is just really cheap. And electricity is expensive. So when it's a heat pump, then of course you've got the multiplier of the coefficient of performance. But if you just need heat for metal annealing or ceramics or making clinker or whatever, then it's just much harder to do economically, purely electrically. I think it's going to happen. Look, I've said, I think come 2100, I will guarantee you we will not be burning stuff. Burning stuff
anywhere for anything.
Well, we might still be burning a little bit of bio stuff, maybe, who knows? But broadly speaking, and the reason is,
that's all I wanted to hear, honestly, is for you to say that.
Look, it's bad economics, it's bad thermodynamics, and it's bad pollution, climate, etc. So, I have to believe that give us another 75 years, we will have figured out alternatives to pretty much all burning. I mean, here's a great example. You have a gas furnace, you are literally using a flame temperature of 1,950 degrees to heat your home to 19.5 degrees. This is objectively, economically, thermodynamically, pollution-wise, stupid. And it's going to stop. It doesn't matter how many people love their gas furnaces. It's just not going to be a thing. Now the question is, could we please do it a bit quicker than 2100? Because there are some real consequences to moving slow.
Yeah, but that's like, everybody, you say electrify everything, and then you always get the person who's like, but what about this or what about that? We're going to electrify almost everything, and I'm just like, no. It's everything.
Well,
I'm putting my foot down. It's everything.
Right. So here's the thing. It is everything, whatever. The problem then, and this is something that the reason that I wrote this two-parter. One is basically saying anybody who says there's no transition, they're wrong. They're faking the numbers. They're using the primary energy fallacy. They're confusing costs and investment. They're doing all sorts of little tricks. And in the Tony Blair's case, they're then sort of correctly identifying the need for a reset, but then proposing a whole load of really stupid stuff as the solution. Okay, fine. That was part one. Part two, though, is to say, can we stop doing stupid stuff? We, the climate community, stop doing stupid stuff that is counterproductive. If you want to go fast, sometimes you just, have to win like a tortoise, not win like a hare. And saying electrify everything. Let me link it back to electrify everything, just to where I came from, just very briefly, if I might. The problem with saying electrify everything is that anybody who has a gas furnace or an internal combustion car immediately is going to be alienated. So I just reframe it and say, can we just there's this smorgasbord of cheap, effective things, affordable things, clean solutions. It's right in front of our noses. Can we just please do that and stop talking about, hydrogen aeroplanes or, all sorts of the last few percent? Say, what happens if there's a really long Dunkelflaute? You didn't think of that. So what? So we'll
There's always the Dunkelflaut guy along with these are the types of guys. Well, I wanted to set you up because I do think this is an interesting conceptual shift that you write in the piece that I think will be maybe new to people and is interesting to think about. So a lot of the sort of model for climate activism has been huge pressing problem, very little time to solve it. We've got to do big, extraordinary, precedent-breaking things that we've never done in politics before. It's like we need extraordinary measures. And the point you make is just, if electricity gets cheaper, clean electricity gets cheaper faster than demand rises, over time, inexorably, fossil fuels will be pushed out, slowly but steadily. So, which means we'll miss that 2030 target, but we will hit the 2050 target. Basically, we won't get 1.5 degrees, but we'll have a good chance of coming in under 2 degrees without this sense of like crisis, rush, break with everything. Through normal politics, basically, we can do this.
So you're almost there. If I might just gloss it slightly, because you said that if electricity gets cheaper, right? So you've turned it into an electrotech point. What I did in part one of this two-part article was I built a 4-line Excel model. 4-line, literally, it's the simplest model of the global energy system ever built. It took me about 20 minutes. And what it does is it says, okay, look, first of all, I'm not a degrowther, by the way, right? So I like humans, and I like humans visiting their grandparents, and I like them drinking cold beers, and I like them having MRI scanners in Africa, and all of that needs energy. And so I'm with Chris Wright, sort of, right? In that using energy correlates with human progress. So the first thing is, let's all hope that the use of energy, that the economy keeps growing, because that is what's pulling people out of poverty, and it's providing the good things in life. So if the economy grows at line 1, 3.3% per year, which is what it has been growing at globally. And then you say, well, there'll be some real energy efficiency at the demand side. Let's call it 1%, a little bit over 1%, so that we don't have to grow. The energy demand doesn't grow at 3.3. Let's say it grows at 2%. And then let's start with the correct figure, not the primary energy figure, but the correct figure for clean energy services, which is basically 1/3 of everything is clean already, not 20%, 1/3. Let's start with that. And then let's grow the clean energy, not at 2% like demand, but at 5%. So what's growing is it may be that it's getting cheaper, it may be policy, it may be whatever, But all it's got, line 3, so line 1 is the economy, line 2 is the energy demand growth, 2%. Line 3 is then the clean energy growing at 5% per year. And I don't do anything clever, like, oh, it might be a bit faster first of all, then it gets more mature. I just go 5%, right? Let's just see what happens. And line 4 is fossil filling the gap, which is what it does in real life, right? If you can't have wind and solar, then you use your fossil. That's reality. So 4 lines, and what happens, exactly as you say, initially you don't see very much, like Ernest Hemingway, How Do You Go Bankrupt? First slow and then fast. Fossil fuels lose, first slow, and then it kind of walks. You get
but this is the key point. It looks like it might not look like we're winning in the first 20 years of winning.
It looks like exactly what we see out there, which is clean energy growing faster than energy demand, but not fast enough to absorb all the growth yet. Right? Yet. And that yet is the important word. That all of these other, Dan Jurgen and Michael Sembalest and Václav Smil and Bjorn Lomborg and Chris, they're not thinking about it in terms of, because essentially all I'm doing is saying, there's this theory of additivity. Oh, clean energy only gets added, right? Well, the reason is because the smaller number, the 30% clean, is growing faster, but the bigger number is growing as well. And it's just the question of what happens to the delta. It's a 4-line model.
I've always found that particular point so baffling. Like, mathematically, it has to go through addition before it gets to substitution. Of course it's going through that phase. That doesn't mean it's intrinsically only addition. Just follow the numbers out into the future, and it becomes substitution at some point.
It's just you're taking one geometric, series from another, and then calling it additive. And it's like, no. Geometric minus geometric does not end up being additive. But also, the other thing I love about the additivity is where they say, it's additive because whatever we don't use in the West, we use in the global South. It's like, wait a minute. So all of that peat and the charcoal, is that why the charcoal use is growing in Africa? It's because we stopped using it. I don't see a load of people carrying charcoal to Africa from Europe. It's just basically BS. It's post facto rationalization of a position that these people want to hold. And when I go after it, I think what's really important is I'm not trying to persuade. I'm not going to persuade Chris Wright of anything, or Bjorn Lomborg, or none of these people will be persuaded. What I'm trying to do is, frankly, make fun of their ideas to deny the territory to the average person who might read one of those other reset pieces and say, this seems pretty sensible. This is what the grown-ups think. It's not what the grown-ups think. It's what people who can't do 4-line spreadsheets think. And they need to be, so I'm trying to deny the followers to these flawed sort of models. That's my mission. That's what I'm trying to do there.
But my response to your simple model was, this makes sense. So clean energy is growing faster than energy demand, basically, and so eventually it takes over it. It looks like not a lot of progress at first, but then you get sort of like a flippy point around 2040-ish, I guess.
I call it winning the transition like a tortoise, not like a hare. The hare is the 1.5. We failed. The hare version has failed, right?
So this, to me, raises questions about the politics of it. And I wanted to run this question by you. So one of my pet theories that I sort of believe in, 57%, is that despite all our many efforts, climate is never going to be the center of a substantial, it's never going to be the central rationale for the behavior of large numbers of people, basically. We can yell at them all we want. It's negative, it's unpleasant, it's a danger. People don't want to think about it. All these reasons we've been yelling and preaching about it for 20, 30 years, and the number of people, I keep seeing these polls great news, the number of people who believe that climate change is happening, it ticked up 3% in the last, 5 years, and we're up to like 52% now. It's just like, Jesus. So I just think that we needed to raise the alarm about climate change, but now we've got 2 positive stories to sell people on, things they can pursue and want and desire and fight for rather than be scared of and avoid. One of them, which was the subject of a panel I was at earlier today, is about housing and urbanism and walkability. We can give you better places to live. And the other is this electrotech. Like, I genuinely think, like, we have a whiz-bang future of unlimited growth. Like, if you ever want to, I'm curious if you ever try this line on people you talk to. Like, if we're still hooked to fossil fuels, there's a limit to the amount we can grow, and we're eating our seed corn and fouling our nest as we're doing it. If you want to 5x the amount of energy humanity uses, 10x, right? Like, desalinate the oceans for drinking water, go to Mars, do big things. If you have a big vision of a bright future for humanity, only renewable energy can do that. Only solar power can do that. It is the only source, is literally physically the only source of energy abundant enough to do that. So I feel like we need to, as you know, you're not a degrowther, and you know that there's the environmental movement has had this degrowth vibe. Following it around still feels, I feel like, ambiguous about it. It still has not resolved in this movement. But I think there's a world where we turn toward a bright, happy, human positive, wealth positive, like growth positive, and only clean energy can do that. I wonder, like, do all the powerful people get that?
I don't want to be a downer, but I'm not buying that argument it's great. Look, we've all had a few beers and we're among friends and it sounds great and woo, let's do it and so on. Fine. But, if you're talking to the average person and you're saying, well, because we can't keep going, things can't keep going as they are for 200 years unless we do this wrenchingly painful thing today, I think you're not going to get many votes in an election.
No, I'm saying, like, we can offer you cooler, better stuff. Like a cooler, better life, a better life with better stuff in it. Oh. And we have a bunch of big, bloated incumbents slowing down our progress towards those cool things. Right.
But you can heat your home near Calgary. I was there. There's a project in a place called Okotoks where they're doing seasonal storage underground, and they built this project, and it's so cool. It's all electro-tech like you wouldn't believe, but it costs something like $100,000 per home, and you can heat a home there for $200 a year. So good luck explaining that your cool electro-tech thing is the future. So let me flip it around, though, I think, because I'm not a million miles away. I was just doing my sort of messaging consultancy on exactly how you phrased it. So I think that, because you used a few words that are almost sort of triggers. You said, we had to raise the alarm, and I'm not sure if raising the, we certainly had to understand the problem, and we had to communicate the problem, but I think that then going down this route of, and then we're going to try and scare everybody to get action, that was that has been ineffective. People are not scared, right? We've just had the 4 hottest years in the history of hot years.
But you yourself said that the revolution, the transition is underway.
Yeah, but I think
who do you think did that?
But I don't think it's being driven by fear. There's a few people who will choose to be scared, but most people will not choose to be scared because, frankly, I was going to say, 4 hottest years in the history of hot years, we've just had the 4 global record harvests. So a lot of people out there, we just have to understand, are not scared. I think the way we need to frame it for a lot of people, and particularly people on the right, and that's, I count myself as a kind of center-right. I'm not a mad, extremist, but I am from the center-right tradition, and I think that what you've got to say is, look, it is yes, there'll be cool stuff and there'll be better stuff. It might not all be cool and better, but when it is, please just use it, right? So that's the first thing. But also, we have a responsibility. This is a problem that is not going to go away. It's going to get worse. Are the harvests going to collapse? Are you going to die of climate change? No. But it is your responsibility, right? Particularly if you call yourself a conservative, there's a clue in the name, conserve, right? Which means when you have these long-term grinding problems that are not going to go away, it is your responsibility to do something about it. Not destroy all of your energy infrastructure tomorrow, but there is a gradient, there is a force field that says move towards the cleaner stuff, move towards solving the problem, and make sure that after some decent interval of decades, it is solved. And so I think that is a narrative that can resonate a lot more than this kind of, we've got to scare people, raise the alarm,
See, this is where I want to argue, because you sound like you are designing a message for a room full of sensible people like you, which, God, if only, but the world is full of madness. Madness is loose in the country. It's not fact-based. It's not responding to facts. It's not responding to calm messages. You need a counterforce that has some communication with the limbic system, that touches on the amygdala, that moves the hormones and gets people feeling about it. This idea that we should all just be calm and rational throughout until the future, I would love that, but that's not the humanity we live in.
So if I summarize the second part of the pragmatic climate reset piece, it's not, and then we hold town halls and try and persuade people not to be extreme and mad and contrarian, and I'm not going to use the worst words because I don't think that's productive. What I actually, in a way, am saying is spend the next few years. There is a smorgasbord of stuff right in front of us that is affordable, that is cheap, and we should just be doing that. And certainly in the current environment, we should be doing that all day long. And frankly, the other point that I would make, though, is when you look out there at these kind of seas of kind of rabid crazies that you seem to think we're surrounded by,
read the news, Mike.
Right? But you're assuming that everybody who's not you is them, right? And I think that's wrong. There's a lot of silent people who are, not like that. That is, I meet them, even in America.
You meet a very specific, very select group of uniquely rational people.
But 2 points about supposing we are surrounded by a sea of, it's like some film where they've been zombified and they've become rabid. You are not going to appeal to their limbic system by claiming climate catastrophe. Right? You're not going to get there. Point number one. Point number two is, do you ever think that in some way you made them rabid? You annoyed them so much they became like that.
Answer to that is no.
Nothing you've done. Nothing you've done.
The U.S. conservative movement is long-standing, decades old, well-funded, has wanted what it wants from the beginning, wants it no matter what I do. Of course, when it does shitty things, it's going to say, hey, we did this shitty thing because you said your thing wrong, or you offended us, or you called us a name. Of course it's going to say that, but it wants what it wants. The right exists separately from us. It's not a reaction to us.
So you just did exactly what I wanted you to do. I played you like a violin. Just the same way that you're played like a violin by people who want you to start moving to the extreme, making extreme statements, being disparaging, calling people ignorant, and what was it? It was the thing that you tweeted this. It was
fascist. I don't know. I've used all the words.
But around climate, you said that people were ignorant and inattentive, right? And the problem with that is, if you accuse people of being ignorant and inattentive, don't be surprised when the next day you ask them to buy a heat pump and they tell you to go to hell. right? So we do, in this community, we also have agency in that polarization. We can either make it worse, or we can at least try. And again, I'm not talking about the real extremes, right? The people who are out there on social media tweeting every day about how solar power never earns back the energy used to make the power.
But Michael, they're not tweeting, they're running the country. The people running the country think solar's a myth. They think wind causes cancer. They're canceling almost built offshore wind projects. These are irrational, crazy people. They're not some fringe. They're running things. They're on your TV.
And who voted for them? Everybody who voted for them is as crazy as that. Every single 50%, because then,
Not all of them. I'd say probably 30%.
Okay.
30% of the U.S. is full of crazy people who are not going to be calmed by your slow, rational process.
So then, now we're just negotiating who we're going to talk to, right? Because what you're saying is that there is 20% of the country that is actually some kind of swing, and they can be either alienated by you. I'm going to really
love me,
right?
Are you kidding? They love me.
Or they can, right? But that's the swing constituency. So my point is, you're not going to, whether it's 30% or 10% that you'll never ever persuade, but there is a big chunk that takes cues from our messaging, from our behavior, and that's part of my thing. The reason I started in my piece, number one, is fix the politics, because we have agency in the amount of opposition and the followership of the kind of more contrarian brigade.
I guess I would say what those people are responding to is not us. They are never exposed to us. What they hear is a caricature of us delivered by Fox News, so we can say whatever we want. Fox News is still going to tell them that we're crazy.
Sorry, David. Millions of people have had their commutes disrupted by Just Stop Oil. Millions, yes, because they keep on doing it over a period of years. So literally, millions of people have been disrupted, and those are the people you then want to go and buy an EV or buy a heat pump. And they are predisposed by that experience to believe that all that stuff is crap and doesn't work. They'll believe any stupid stuff that's propagated by the contrarians because you've annoyed them.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there with Michael being wrong about this. So
I enjoy being like the token conservative in the room. It's like, I don't know if anybody else.
We have to wrap it up. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for coming. Subscribe to Volts and to... what's it called? What's a pod called?
Cleaning Up. Cleaning Up.
Subscribe to both.
It's on every good podcast platform and on YouTube. Thank you very much.
All right, let's give it up for that. That was really fun for me to hear someone really like taking you to task and making you sweat on your own podcast. That doesn't always happen. So yes, one more round of applause, and then we have the band coming back to play us out. Let's get the Department of Energy out here. Or what was your? I think it's actually the One Big Beautiful Band is now what we're calling them. Yeah. So let's here for our final musical number of the night. Does anyone need this?
No, I would take a mic stand though.
Yeah.
Hello.
What a crowd.
As is tradition at this event, first we get the sound turned on. Then we play out the host with some good, slow, smooth music.
It's not that easy being green. having to spend each day the color of the leaves, when I think it could be nicer being red or yellow or gold or something much more colorful like that. It's not that easy being green. Seems you blend in with so many other ordinary things, and people tend to pass you over 'cause you're not standing out like flashy sparkles in the water or stars in the sky. But green is the color of spring, and green can be cool and friendly like. Oh, and green can be big like an ocean, or important like a mountain, or tall like a tree. When green is all there is to me, it could make you wonder why, but why wonder, why wonder? I'm green, and it'll do just fine, and it's what I want to be.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming out to Climate Night Live from Canary Media, Pew Charitable Trusts, and the MacArthur Foundation. This is really the best house band a climate journalist could ask for. One big, beautiful band, one Department of Energy. Really appreciate what they do out here, keeping it groovy here in Climate World. We know we all need that these days, don't we? Also wanted to shout out this little camera thing that's been standing there the whole time. It's from Alert the Globe, which is a live streaming service trying to build community through live events. Just like what we did tonight. This was a live event. You saw it. You were here. Yeah. And then, of course, our supporting sponsors again, AT&T. That's how I talk to my parents on the phone with AT&T and my friends all the time. Also, Raymond James. They did great work here. Agog. Can't live without him, you know? And, you know, all of you here in the crowd. It's a late night. What day is it? I think it's a Monday. Someone told me it was Monday. And we're still here. We're still having a good time. We got a groovy beat. Can't stop the blues, you know? So from me, Julian Spector, and all the Canary Media crew, thank you for coming out tonight in New York City. It's been Climate Night Live. One for the books. Thank you, everybody.